Tom wants to make sure that ICE has access to all the criminals that are in all of these bad places and wants to make sure that they're able to go into the jails to arrest them. I mean, actually, you've got local law enforcement doing the work of rounding them up for something that they did that was illegal, and then we know that they're here illegally. So come on, like, this doesn't make any sense that they would be harboring these criminals. I mean, that in and of itself seems very illegal. Here's Tom.
They're trying to blind access to sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are sanctuaries for criminals. Give ICE access to the jail to arrest a bad guy in the jail rather than have to go in the community to find them. Because when you go in the community and find them, it puts ICE officers at greater risk. It puts the community at greater risk. It puts the alien at greater risk because anything can happen on a street arrest. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to prioritize public safety threats when you got governors and mayors who are releasing these public safety threats every day into the community.
Good morning. Good morning.
So they release them back into the community, thereby creating larger public safety threats. I mean, this is wild to me. And then you have to ask yourself this: who is it that wants this? And why do they want it? Why do they have signal chats that have been uncovered? This by an influencer named Cam Higbee online, and he's got all the names here of all these people that joined this signal chat. And you have to say to yourself, why is it? Because they hate Donald Trump that much? That's the actual goal here? They just want to keep going after anything that Trump does. I mean, we've already played the sound from Barack Obama 2010. He was all about making sure that we deported people. In fact, Barack Obama deported 5 million, okay? Illegal aliens. Think about that, guys. 5 million of them. So what does this tell you? When you have groups that are being set up by, I don't know, is this foreign money? Do we have foreign actors involved? Who's doing this? Well, we know that some of the lawmakers in the Democrat Party are very much about this. I mean, I want to go to a soundbite from Peggy Flanagan, who is the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, and she's telling people to put their bodies on the line. I mean, think about what they've actually done. This feels incredibly wrong to me. Here's Peggy.
Our neighbors are being disappeared. P.S. Without due process, it is just called kidnapping. Then show up and use your voice. Put your body on the line.
Put your body
Happy
on
Wednesday.
the line.
Thanks for joining in. Like and subscribe.
You heard what I heard. I mean, unfortunately, people are seemingly taking her quite literally. Put your body on the line. That is the lieutenant governor of the state of Minnesota, one Peggy Flanagan. So now there are allegations that she was actually one of the admins running that signal chat I just showed you. And there's allegations where people are saying, okay, her name was Flan Southside was what she went by. And she's denying these, I should point out, but they're suggesting that she was actually a big part of this. They're saying signal's not secure. I worked in communications. Once they figure out where we were, it's only a matter of time. Flan has been exposed. They think that's her, Flanagan. We're all, you know what? I need to leave this state. And then people are asking, should we leave the country? Like, what exactly are they doing that it's that bad that they need to leave the country? Again, you can have a peaceful protest, but these are not peaceful protests. It's unbelievable what they're doing. So again, Flan has been exposed. There's another screenshot of it. Cam Higbee infiltrated this group, and he's over on X, so I encourage you to go look at his feed. She is denying this. She said, look, I don't have anything to do with this. She told the Washington Times her office is
morning. Like and subscribe.
The alias Flan
Minnesota, gotta pray for them people over there, man.
Again,
gotta pray for them. Alex should never got shot. Shouldn't have been there.
Put their bodies on the line.
But the officer was bogus too.
Alex Faulkner, who was a state rep.
You know, officer was bogus too. I seen the video. He shouldn't have pushed that lady. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't have been. It was just straight chaos in Minnesota. You gotta pray for that. Pray for that state.
Representative is the state representative in the state of Minnesota is out there, yes, telling people he's actively involved in these chats. I don't know if it's this particular signal chat, but he's got his own little group, and he's right here on camera, very proud of it.
But we will get through it. We'll get stronger for it, and we will look out for one another. Before coming to the state legislature, I'm a community organizer at heart, and that's part of what I'm trying to bring to the legislature. I'm helping to lead the community response, rapid response network that we have, given any ICE situations. I have a couple cards here.
Like and subscribe, everybody. Good morning. Let's get to 1,000.
With anybody that wants any more information, we've got a couple groups on the app Signal that we would love for you to join. Whether or not you want to be a part of the Resistance Network, I fully understand.
Okay, I want to go back and play that again more carefully.
Information.
Let's listen.
We've got a couple groups on the app Signal that we would love for you to join.
Okay, so he's got some groups on the app Signal. Guys, do you understand how serious this is? You have lawmakers literally standing in defiance and encouraging people to put their bodies on the line with ICE. I mean, this is really, really, really bad.
Whether or not you want to be a part of the Resistance Network, I fully understand you may not be comfortable with that, but
they don't look so enthusiastic now, do they? Of course, they haven't seen the paycheck yet. I mean, when you got paid protesters, that kind of changes the scenario, does it not? Unbelievable. And they want this friction, which is why I'm sort of surprised by Walt agreeing and Fry agreeing to send in local law enforcement to make arrest 26 of them there last night, because they want the agitation. They want it for a couple of reasons, including to take the heat off of one Ilhan Omar and the rest of them. Keith Ellison, Timmy Walz. Like, I don't know why they all looked the other way and allowed $19 billion at least of fraud to go down.
You have Governor Walz and, again, the mayor, who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to smear lies about federal law enforcement who, again, are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread, massive fraud that has taken place in their state.
Yeah. Well, Homan's going to get to the bottom of it. Homan is going to get to the bottom of it. We like Christie, but you know what?
He done it before.
May take a little je ne sais quoi right about now, because he's going to make sure that they pay a price. All those people on Signal, watch out. Homan's coming for you.
This job and these people who want to say follow ICE, and film ICE, you know what? You can protest. They have that right. But when you cross the line, and we've proven it, if you interfere or impede or assault an ICE officer, you will be prosecuted. And one thing I'm pushing for right now, Laura.
Good morning. Like and subscribe, everybody.
Let's go back, because he said,
Happy Wednesday.
If you cross an ICE officer, you're going to be punished for that.
This job and these people who want to say follow ICE, and film ICE, you know what? You can protest. They have that right. But when you cross the line, and we've proven it, if you interfere or impede or assault an ICE officer, you will be prosecuted. And one thing I'm pushing for right now, Laura, we're going to create a database. Those people that are arrested for interference, impediment, assault, we're going to make them famous. We're going to put their face on TV. We're going to let their employers in their neighborhoods, in their schools, know who these people are. Because as you said, a lot of these people, they say they're taking time off work to protest. I bet you a lot of them are calling in sick. I bet you a lot of their employers don't know what they're doing. But we're going to make sure everybody knows who they are. We're going to broadcast. They want to broadcast the ICE officer that was nearly killed all over the internet. We're going to broadcast every one of these people we arrest.
He's a badass. Okay, that's Tom Homan. So anybody who thinks that they're getting off the hook in Minnesota because Christie's out and Tom is in, I got news for you. Things are about to get
Right, time ain't playing.
dicey for you. But maybe the answer is, you know what? It doesn't need to get that way, because maybe the message has been sent. Maybe they're going to fix things. I mean, they are operating in violation of the law. This impediment cannot happen. Our friend Scott Jennings had to explain this to the folks over on CNN earlier today.
He's simply trying to enforce federal immigration law, just like every other president before him has done. In fact, President Paul Begala knows well, Bill Clinton said, we won't tolerate immigration by people whose first act is to break the law as they enter our country. The presidents that have come before Donald Trump have all done this. In fact, Barack Obama gave Tom Homan a medal for deporting people. So right now, in terms of messaging, I'd say stick to the facts, dump the hyperbole, and stick to what every other president that's come before you has done. talk about the need to enforce immigration law, and talk about the fact that a state, even a blue state, cannot exist in a state of secession from the federal government or federal laws.
Boom. Okay? And that's the truth. You know, what are they trying to do? It's like they want some kind of civil war. All right? Like, don't kid yourself.
It's crazy.
They want something. And it's not okay. And we're not going to stand for it. You know who else is not going to stand for it? The President of the United States. He's also not going to allow for this to get the better of him. Right? In terms of, you know, again, you're seeing the base kind of feel deflated. They're not happy because, again, nobody wants this happening. Nobody wants to see death in the streets. And so you've got to make sure that you stay on message. Scott is absolutely right. And this president knows how to do that better than anyone else. I want to go to the President of the United States speaking moments ago on Fox, praising when Tom Homan saying he's going to get the job done. Watch.
Tom is fantastic. Tom is a tough guy, but I've watched over the years, and he's gotten along with governors and he gets along with mayors. Some people don't. Some people just want to do their job and leave me alone. And that's sort of okay, too. That's generally been okay. Most of them are happy. Memphis, Tennessee, very tough, very straightforward. We're taking the criminal out. We're getting them out, either putting them in jail, because some are so bad that you don't want to send them to where they came from because you're afraid they're going to come back. They're murderers. So some are very down and straight, and others, Tom, I've noticed, as tough as he is, he gets along very good with governors and mayors. Now, I spoke to the mayor and to the governor yesterday, and they want to see it cleared up.
I'm so fascinated.
See, there you go. He did speak to them, and then Tom Homan went and spoke to them. And Tom Homan spoke to Fry, who put this out on Twitter earlier today. Today, Chief O'Hara, that would be the police chief there, and I met, by the way, the police chiefs, they usually love Homan, right? They love him. He loves them. I mean, even in Chicago, guys, when you had Brandon Johnson saying, we're not going to help ICE, the local police chief was out there warning people, hey, when you guys start surrounding ICE cars, don't forget they have guns, and they, you know, inevitably, what you don't want to have happen is going to have happen, because this is law enforcement and you can't just stand in total opposition of law enforcement or threaten their lives. Anyway, Fry writing today, Chief O'Hara and I met with Border Czar Homan and had a productive conversation. I reiterated that my main ask is for Operation Metro Surge to end as quickly as possible. Public safety works best when it's built on community trust, not tactics for fear and division. Okay, so if it's going to work best like that, then guess what? You guys actually have to cooperate. You actually have to do their job. And I think this is what Tom is communicating to them, as you saw him communicate so brilliantly to MSNBC, right? I mean, he's like, yeah, this is the way it's going to be, and you're going to actually have to play ball. So if they play ball, then we actually have some kind of resolution, and you can do something peacefully that targets. And again, targeting is important, right? That's what you heard them say. Targeting is important, that will target the right people at the right time. Let's go back to the president now speaking again on Fox. He's being asked, well, is this a de-escalation? He says exactly what I just told you. No, this is not a de-escalation, because guess what? Tom means business.
Oh, the message is out that Tom Homan is in.
Yeah.
Commander Bovino is supposedly leaving Minneapolis along with some CBP agency. Is this a pullback?
I don't think it's a pullback. It's a little bit of a change. Everybody in this room that has a business, you know, you make little changes. You know, Bovino is very good, but he's a pretty out there kind of a guy. And in some cases, that's good. Maybe it wasn't good here. But you have to understand, when I watch some of the people that I've been watching over the last few weeks, these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid agitators. These people are normal, like OG, that, you know, they're incensed about it.
Like and subscribe.
How do you get incensed when you go into a state and you're taking criminals out? You're taking monsters out, murderers. You know, we had 11,888 murderers let into our country by other countries, by Biden with his open border stupid policy.
Thanks for joining in.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. You talk about bad policy. Open borders where people were coming, so the whole world, the Congo, Venezuela, all over the world, they're letting people in from their prisons and they're feeding them into the United States. And they're murderers and they're drug dealers and they're everything else you can think of, every bad name you can think of. And they let them in by the millions. We closed the border. You know, we have nobody coming into our country anymore. Literally.
You know, he makes a lot of good points in there. And one of them was that maybe Bovino was a bit of a bull in a china shop. I don't know. And
Let's get
there's
to
going to be
1,000. Like and
allegations that
subscribe,
Christine Holm
everybody.
was
Happy Wednesday. Happy hump
kind
day.
of going too far, too fast, and then maybe Homan is the guy that can kind of rein it in. Not rein it in. I mean, again, I think that that's kind of a misinterpretation of what Homan could do, because Homan knows the law.
How you doing, Moses?
Anyone,
Thanks for
has been
joining
doing
in.
this for years and years. Is the guy, right? Like, he is the border czar and has been the
How you
border
doing,
czar
Sunshine?
during
It's a
various
nice name.
administrations, and he's just a straight shooter. He's a straight shooter. I mean, he's got all the qualities that you want right now. You also heard the president refer to this being an orchestrated operation. And again, it gets back to
That's
the
beyond
signal
Trump.
that
It's
I
about
was telling
America.
you
That's all it's about.
And he's had it. In other words, this cannot exist. This cannot exist. And they are
Trump
in
already got 3
violation
years.
of
I'm all about
federal
America.
law. In addition, again, as we think about how to most delicately handle this with Christine Holm, and as he thinks about that, he definitely likes her. I'm going to tell you that. He definitely likes her a lot, and she's in that job because he likes her a lot. But at some point when push comes to shove, sometimes you need, even if the person is going to be very similar, you need a change, because that's a new message that's getting communicated to Minneapolis. And again, I think that Tom Homan is going to be just totally kick at this particular position. So it came up, well, what's happening with Christie, and why is she out in Minneapolis? And I want to go to that sound as well that we have again from the president. Let's listen in.
I know you addressed this morning. You talked about the incredible success, and it is an incredible success at the southern border. But you were asked, with the shift in Minneapolis and Tom Homan going to Minnesota, do you still have confidence in DHS Secretary Christine Holm?
Trump is great.
I do. Look,
you do.
She was there with the border. Who closed up the border? She did, with Tom Homan, with the whole group. I mean, they closed up the border. The border is a tremendous success, one of the most secure borders in the entire world. We were a laughing stock 1.5 years ago for the whole world. The whole world laughed at us. I had friends that said, "Is that real?" They'd look at a picture. You've been down to the border. They'd look at a picture of the border with hundreds of thousands of people pouring in like it was water. And they said, "Is that really taken?" They can't believe it. They think it's one of these crazy movies that they make. The border was horrible. It was horrible. I did the border twice. First time I won, 2016, I won on the border. But that border was nothing, and I fixed it immediately. It was great. We had great years, and we had a great economy. We had the best economy in history in 2016, my first term. And we rebuilt the military, and we get the largest regulation cuts. We had the best job number. We had a great first term. This term seems to be blowing it away.
I would agree on that. I mean, certainly from an economic standpoint, also from an immigration
Right.
standpoint, in that he's deported so many
Like and
criminals.
subscribe, everybody.
You get the market up. Simultaneously, gold is up, right? That's an interesting one. Again, go to 76 Research if you want to learn more about that. And we're finding out about all this fraud. All this fraud. I mean, it's kind of
I'm gonna
scary.
be mad
because I think
regardless.
if the
Trump only
wrong
got
group
3
gets
years.
back
It's
in
about
the
America,
seats,
baby.
you could
Like and
actually
subscribe.
have much more reckless spending. I mean, we listened to Schumer the other day saying they want to bring all this reckless spending back, right? Love spending your hard-earned money. Schumer's hoping he gets to do it again.
How you doing, G?
The budget
Good morning.
we're working on right now, we restore most of the cuts and even go higher than previous years on many of the programs that Doge slashed.
So all that money we saved, forget about it. Hey, the Pirates would have a field day. Just have to elect the right team. Yeah, I think that's the concern, because if they get in there again, don't kid yourself, they're going to want to spend again. And you're going to have more of these programs. I mean, look at the guy who, by the way, did you see him trying to shovel the snow in New York City? I'm talking about Mamdani. Comrade Mamdani. I mean, he's already just come out in the last 10 days and said he's going to have free universal childcare for all illegals. It's like, have you not seen any of the reporting done by Nick? Did you not see any of Nick Shirley's stuff? I mean, do we have to play? Well, he doesn't care. The Leering Center, who cares, right? I don't think that they care about any of the money that's being wasted. Because why? On Omar talking about 9/11, right? Some people did some things. Yeah, we had some people steal some stuff, but who cares? Who cares? I'm just looking at some of your Don Baca. I know. I think Listen, she's got to answer to these accusations. Don writing that it's money laundering. This is another thing that Comer brought up, and he's not wrong to make these accusations because, again, the
That cat, how you doing?
weird
Good
venture
morning.
capital firm that doesn't seem. What are the investments that this venture capital firm has that's somehow putting it into a valuation of between $5 and $25 million? I'd like
Like
to
and
know, right?
subscribe.
Here's what we know. She went from zero to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year. I don't know many people that go from 0 to 30 without having a legitimate business.
Yeah, no, we just don't. I mean, you would have to be one heck of an investor, Timmy Minette, to be able to pull off, having $42 in your bank account, which is what he had at that private venture capital firm, which he's now turned into between
Good morning,
$5
that cat. Good
and
morning.
$25 million. And that's not just investing in gold, okay? I mean, gold has done really well. Silver's done even better. And by the way, the equity markets have been on a tear, okay? Again, 76research.com. Make sure you go there. Sign up for at least the 76 report. 76research.com. I put it in the show notes. But I'm telling you, like, these people somehow, it's a well-run state, and she has nothing to hide. And, okay, you have nothing to hide, then I want some answers on this stuff. I want some answers, and I want them fast. And I don't think that they're going to be able to provide the.
I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. You can't have guns. You can't walk in with guns.
What about the Second Amendment?
You can't walk in with guns. You can't do that.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
Individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Look, let's just be honest and stop the bullshit. This is a pro-ICE versus anti-ICE masquerading as a gun issue. They're using the gun as a proxy to have that fight, and I'm not here for that. I'm a Second Amendment advocate, and that's what I do. That's the lane that I stay in. So I'm going to talk to you about this from a two-way perspective, because that's the part people are lying about, including people on both sides.
It's a little sunny out here in Rockford. It's a little sunny.
Recently about this.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for joining in.
Leadership, including from Trump.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Freddie is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But hey, look, bottom line, everybody in this room, we view that as a very unfortunate incident. Everyone, unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he.
Like and subscribe, everybody. Good morning. Let's get to 1,000 and beyond.
And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
What do you think of some Republicans saying? Sir, was Mr. Freddie acting as an assassin? Do you think he was acting as an assassin in Minneapolis? Mr. Freddie, your deputy chief of staff said that. You don't think so?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What about the Second Amendment?
You can't walk in with guns. You can't do that, but it's a very unfortunate.
What about the Second Amendment, sir?
That is anti-gun bullshit. And yes, I'm going to say this plainly and honestly. I'm embarrassed. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing because I've defended Trump from a two-way perspective. So yeah, hearing that shit is embarrassing. But here's where I refuse to be dishonest. I don't judge politicians solely by what they say. I judge them by what they do. Trump could get on TV tomorrow, rip the Constitution in half, wipe his ass with the Second Amendment, and spit on it and scream F2A at the top of his lungs. I don't care. What matters is what has he actually done? And action-wise, the Second Amendment has never been more protected than it is right now. That's not an opinion. That's just fact. If not for the judges he appointed, states like New York and California would not even be having conversations about how to comply with concealed carry rulings right now. They'd still be telling you to go F yourself. Gun sales are down, not because people don't like guns, but because people don't feel like their rights are about to be erased overnight like they do when the Democrats are in office. They'll say the same shit Trump said and then actively try to pass legislation against the Second Amendment.
I'm going to say this. The officers was bogus. They shouldn't have pushed the ladies. The ladies shouldn't have been there. They shouldn't have been there. But the officers are doing their job. But they shouldn't have pushed that lady like that. They shouldn't have been there. It was a high volume atmosphere. Whistles blowing, horns going off. Everybody in the streets tripping. The man shouldn't have died. He shouldn't have died. He had the right to carry a gun. He had no ID on him. But And once again, you had a protest, and you had a protest with a gun, with other guns, and yeah, bad decision on both parts.
Trump says some off-the-wall shit, but his actions do something else. He may not even like the Second Amendment, but because the people do, he has to do what the people want. I can't think of anything more American than that. You want to know the biggest endorsement of the Second Amendment? A system where even the president, who says dumb shit about guns.
I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff.
Cannot unilaterally destroy the right, even if
that's what I'm all about, man. Telling the truth.
And the structure of the country
right is right.
Allow it.
Fraud is bad.
The power of the Second Amendment. So yeah, I'll take the embarrassment of stupid rhetoric as long as.
If Trump is in the Epstein files for pedophile, send his ass to jail too. No matter. Send his ass to jail if he in the files. Period.
The actions can
like and subscribe.
Protect the right, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Now, the first question, simple question. Was this man legally allowed to carry a firearm? Yes. Under Minnesota law, he was legally allowed to carry a firearm. He was legally allowed to bring that firearm to a protest. Minnesota statute 624.7142 does not prohibit carrying a firearm at a protest. That part is not debatable.
It just wasn't smart.
It's smart to bring a gun to a protest where you know tensions are high and federal agents are present. And
no, I'm keeping my fucking gun. I'm not giving my gun up because Trump said give it up. Come on, man, stop it. I'm not stupid.
Whether something is legal are two completely different conversations, and people keep collapsing them on purpose. Now, let me say this clearly, because this is the core 2A issue. Simply having a firearm on you does not make you a criminal. Simply having 2 magazines does not make you a criminal. It does not mean you're planning a mass shooting. For Christ's sakes, you got people in the gun industry who would literally say, if you don't carry a spare mag, you're doing it wrong. Nothing about his behavior gave me mass shooter vibes. Nothing about his demeanor gave me aggressor. And honestly, the license argument doesn't even matter as much as people think it does. Yes, we know he had a license, but even if we didn't know that in the moment, simply possessing a firearm does not automatically turn you into a criminal. Besides, they weren't restraining him because he had a gun. They didn't even know he had a gun until he was on the ground. You may not like the fact that he was protesting ICE. That still does not strip him of his Second Amendment rights any more than if someone who is pro-ICE went to protest against the protesters while carrying their gun. The Second Amendment is for everybody, not just people you agree with, not just people who vote like you, not just people who make you comfortable. If your belief in the Second Amendment disappears the second the person carrying a gun isn't on your team, then do you actually believe in the Second Amendment? Now, let's talk about what actually...
The man's cooking. Like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. 46 people in the chat. Let's get 46 likes or 46 subs.
Happened in the video. From what I saw, it looked like he was filming 2 women who were actively agitating the officer, blowing whistles, getting in his face, escalating the situation. From my perspective, it looked like documentation, not participation.
Thanks for joining in, Circle.
I don't know if he told them to stop. I don't know if he tried to de-escalate verbally. All I can tell you is what it looked like to me from the footage. And yes, those whistles were annoying as hell. They annoyed me just watching the video. But annoyance is not illegality. Blowing whistles is actually protected speech under the First Amendment. At the same time, I also saw the agent pushing one of the women to the ground. Was that legally justified? Was she under arrest? Was he enforcing something specific? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know just to make people feel better. Now, the dynamic clearly changed when the guy stepped between the agent and the woman after she went down. Do I think he was trying to be malicious? It looked to me like he was just trying to protect someone who had just fallen. Did that decision introduce risk, especially while he was armed? Yes, absolutely. And here's where the 2A reality kicks in. You have a right to protest. You have a right to carry a firearm, even at a protest. Protests can turn violent. You still have to get back to your car. You still have to go home, all that shit. You're not any more safer at a protest. If I were protesting something, chances are I'd be carrying too, because I can legally do that. But I'm not going to engage federal agents while they're working. And I'm definitely not stepping between a federal agent while he's actively pushing someone else. That agent doesn't know me or my intentions. So I'm not risking that. When I carry a gun, I have 2 personalities, Pussy and John Wick. I'm the most passive person in the world when I'm carrying a gun. But if someone is trying to kill me or someone I love, You get to meet John Wick. When you carry a gun, you are held to a higher standard. Not morally, practically. The same way federal agents are held to a higher standard because they are armed and empowered by the government. That's not favoritism. That is responsibility. Now let's get back to the incident itself. This shooting looks fucking bad and dripping in negligence.
Now we'll slow things down so each moment is clear. Here is Preddy. Several agents are restraining him, and this is the Border Patrol agent who will shoot him first. This appears to be
like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe.
Is carrying a firearm.
Happy Wednesday.
And yell that he has a gun. Watching the same moment from a different angle, the agent who first pepper sprayed Preddy beats him several times with the spray canister.
Man, that's crazy.
Both of Preddy's arms are pinned down by his head. This agent in gray reaches.
Thank you. Let's get to 1,000.
Is to remove Preddy's weapon from his hip. As this agent unholsters his gun, nudges the agent in gray out of the way, and fires. Let's rewind and focus on the agent who shoots first. Just seconds before he fired, he was facing away from Preddy and focusing on an entirely different situation as he tries to spray a nearby woman with an irritant. The spray appears to malfunction and the agent turns as he adjusts it. That's when someone yells that Preddy has a gun. And around 5 seconds after fully turning his attention toward Preddy, the agent draws his weapon and shoots. His arm visibly recoils at the first shot.
Damn.
The firearm has clearly been removed from the scrum when the first shots are fired toward Preddy at close range. The officer who disarmed Preddy can be seen reacting.
That's crazy, y'all. Thank you.
The sound of the first shot, looking back toward the skirmish. The shooter was standing behind Preddy and not under direct threat, contradicting statements from Homeland Security officials that he fired defensive shots. He also has a vantage point to see the gun pulled from the scene, but it's unclear if he did and whether he thought a weapon was still on Preddy. He then fires 3 more shots from behind Preddy, whose arms are down as he appears
it's total madness, man.
Against the pavement. In one hand, he still
on both
holds his phone,
sides,
and in his other, his glasses. The agent in gray who removed Preddy's gun carries it across the street. Preddy is disarmed and falling to the ground. But the agent who first pepper sprayed Preddy and later beat him with a canister also pulls out his gun. From a distance, despite the fact that Preddy is lying motionless on the ground, these 2 agents fire 6 more shots. Neither is under threat. In total, the agents fired 10 shots in 5 seconds.
The real questions are, who caused it? And why did the shooting continue afterwards? There are 2 plausible scenarios. 1, an officer draws under stress, finger on the trigger, cold conditions, movement during a struggle, and negligently discharged the gun. 2, the officer disarms him, moves away with the firearm, and then negligently discharges it while trying to secure it. Those 2 scenarios lead to very different conclusions. If the first shot came from the officer moving away with the gun, it's still negligence.
Like and subscribe, everybody.
Maybe they can argue how other agents might.
I'm here to bring you guys the truth on both sides.
They just reacted. Still negligent, but if the first shot came from the officer with his finger on the trigger and he knew it was a negligent discharge and then continued firing, at that point, we're no longer just talking about negligence. We're talking about something fundamentally different. And this is where the law matters, not vibes, not politics. Under Graham v. Connor and Tennessee v. Garner, deadly force is judged under the 4th Amendment's objective reasonableness standard. Officer by officer, second by second. A gun existing is not the same thing as a gun being a threat. A holstered firearm, once removed and controlled, changes the legal math immediately. Another officer yelling gun or even an accidental discharge does not automatically authorize everyone in the scene to open fire. That's not my opinion. That's just law. Until we...
Right, he could bring the gun, but don't engage with the officers. That's the whole thing. And I know somebody talking about Calvin Rittenhouse. Calvin Rittenhouse was minding his business. They was chasing him. He was running away with his gun from them. He didn't run towards them with his gun. Calvin Rittenhouse ran away from them with his gun, and they tried to take his gun and shoot at him. Do y'all research, man. The video's out there.
Know, one, who fired the first shot, whether it was negligent, and what each officer actually perceived. I'm not going to pretend certainty. All I can give you are contingencies. If this, then that. If not this, then something else. And I refuse to let this get hijacked into an ICE debate. I'm talking about guns. I'm talking about rights. I'm talking about constitutional consistency. From that perspective, here's where I land. He did not lose his rights because of his politics. He did not lose his rights because of where he protested. He did not lose his rights because he carried a gun. But bad decisions, bad training, bad reactions.
That's all we talking. That's all I'm saying.
On top of each other.
That's where I'm coming from as a MAGA. He has the right to do that, but it was not the smart decision to go there with the gun. That's the whole thing. Like and subscribe.
One by one, and someone ended up dead. None of this shit looks good. Not the agitation, not the interference, not the anti-gun rhetoric, not the negligent discharge, not the follow-up shots, not the rush to tribalism. And if that doesn't bother you, no matter what side you're on, something is wrong. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video. Or
White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence?
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
I know all of us have seen the videos of what is basically the execution of Alex Preddy. I've seen it from more angles and more times than I care to repeat. An inexcusable state-sanctioned murder. There is no excuse. There is no justification.
Are going to be prepared to, and some of them will shoot, as appears to be what happened here. When you get in a physical brawl with a bunch of armed law enforcement officers and you have a gun on your person, you're running a serious risk of getting fatally shot in the course of that confrontation. The moment they see that gun, they've reasonably perceived an imminent threat of deadly, unlawful force against them, and they'll justifiably respond. It was not actually a deadly force threat to him. He was reasonably perceived, given the circumstances, as an imminent, unlawful threat of deadly force harm, and therefore it was justified to use deadly defensive force.
Out of control. How was it reasonably necessary for him to mace the woman? How was it reasonably necessary for him to discharge his duties as an ICE officer to mace the guy? Then he grabs the guy and throws him down. They all come up. Different ones are kicking him in the head, Rodney King style, and while he's on the ground. And then one of them sees that he has a gun holstered on his back, takes the gun holstered out of his back out, and an officer sees him do that, sees the gun. He's right there when he sees him pick up the gun and take it away. As soon as he sees the gun is taken away, bam, 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 3 shots in his back. There is no justification for that, and anybody who is justifying it is nothing more than a pimp for cops, like Andrew Bronca is, who thinks the Ashley Babbitt shooting was legit. I'm sorry, this was an outrageous shooting. And it was utterly unjustified, didn't meet any legal standards of self-defense, didn't meet any legal standards of reasonable necessity, because you had an out-of-control ICE cop.
So, with all that being said, let's talk about the shooting of Alex Preddy. So welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we are about to go over the shooting of Alex Peretti in Minnesota. Now, the way we do that is we look at the law, we look at the facts, and you get to decide what the correct legal outcome is. Now, first, let's start with the law. So when it comes to police use of force in this context, we start with the seminal case, Graham v. Connor. I don't care what other lawyer you're listening to, whoever else is doing the analysis, if they do not mention this particular case, they absolutely do not know what they're talking about. This is how all officers' use of force will be judged in a court of law. Now, in this case, the Supreme Court ruled that if an officer is going to use force to subdue a subject, it had to be objectively reasonable. And they defined what objectively reasonable is. Quote, it's an objective standard used to judge an officer's actions. Under this standard, a particular application of force must be judged through the perspective of a reasonable officer facing the same set of circumstances without the benefit of 20/20 hindsight, and be based upon the totality of the facts that are known to that officer at the time that the force was used. The court then points to three factors to help us determine if the force used was objectively reasonable. The first is what's the nature of the 911 call. The second is was the subject resisting arrest. And the third is was the subject a serious threat to officers or other members of the community. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of factors, but things the court says a reasonable officer would take into account being objectively reasonable. Now, this is very, very important. Officers are allowed to use force under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution to effectuate a seizure of persons, to arrest someone. So, for instance, an officer's unprovoked punch, push, or any type of physical altercation with the subject that is not in furtherance of them trying to arrest the person, or if they don't have any legal basis to arrest the person, would be considered criminal activity and not objectively reasonable. That's a long way to say officers just can't beat you because they feel like it. They have to use force to effectuate an arrest, and that force has to be objectively reasonable. Here's an example. Let's say we have a woman standing on the street, and an officer walks up to this woman and slaps her in the face. Well, in that case, the officer's just committed an assault. So now it would be on the officer to explain why the assault was necessary to effectuate the arrest of this woman. Now, if the officer had no basis to arrest this person, then the officer loses the legal protections that are afforded to him under the law. And if that's the case, then this incident will be treated as an assault and not an arrest authorized under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. Now we're going to move from the law to the facts of the case and try to apply what we've learned to what actually happened that day in Minnesota. So we're going to look at this first camera angle where protesters are exercising their First Amendment right to peacefully protest. They're in the street, blowing whistles, and recording ICE activities. Now, it's extremely important to understand they are not blocking the agents from doing their job. They're not standing in front of the vehicle. They're not touching the officers. They are essentially being extremely annoying to the officers. Now, this is a very important part of the video because, as you can see, the two women are standing beside the car, but they're not blocking the car. They're not stopping ICE from doing what they're doing. They're just standing in the middle of the street, screaming, yelling, and blowing whistles. And the officer has the door open, so the officer can go sit down and they can drive away, but the officer chooses to engage these two women. Now, this is Alex Peretti. He is the person who's going to die later in this video. Now, as you can see, Alex Rhetoric has his cell phone in his hand and he's recording ICE officers from the middle of the street, also waving by vehicles. Now, Alex just said, hey, do not push them, because the ICE officer then, for some reason, violently starts pushing these women who are not blocking the ICE vehicle. Let's see it from another angle. So now from this angle, if we zoom in, you can clearly see the officer pushing the woman in the street. Now the officer then pushes a second woman in a light-colored jacket into the street.
Thank you guys for watching this with me. Appreciate it.
See the officer
like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys.
Coat again. Remember, they're not blocking the officer. They're not in front of the officer's car. And remember, this officer was about to leave, got out of the car, and started pushing these women. Now, after assaulting these two women, the officer is going to assault the woman in the light-colored jacket again, this time violently pushing her to the ground. before we even get to the shooting, we have to figure out if this officer's initial use of force was justified under these conditions. Well, let's go back to the law. Graham v. Connor says we have to look at the totality of the circumstances at the time force was used. And the Supreme Court reaffirmed this in Barnes v. Felix in 2025, ruling that an excessive force claim under the Fourth Amendment must be evaluated based on the totality of the circumstances, not solely at the moment an officer perceives a threat. And that's why we're looking at the totality of the circumstances and not just the moment that the deadly physical force was used. So in looking at the totality of the circumstances, when officers initially use force, the officer who initially pushed both women in the street, was that force justified? So now your question should be, Nate, why does this even matter? Well, first I have to take you to 18 U.S.C. section 111. Now this statute protects officers while performing their official duties, but not while they're committing an unjustified battery. Now this statute doesn't give you the right to resist arrest. It gives you the right to self-defense if the officers are using unreasonable force. Now, in the Eighth Circuit, the general principle is that a defendant has no right to resist an unlawful arrest. That comes from United States v. Henderson. The Eighth Circuit then followed up in United States v. Milk, claiming that a defendant who is charged with assaulting an officer is entitled to a self-defense jury instruction if there's evidence to support a reasonable belief that the force was necessary to protect oneself from unlawful physical harm or unreasonable force. So therefore, if a federal officer in Minnesota employs force that is objectively unreasonable,
5579, how you doing, Leo?
or unjustifiable bodily harm, that force would constitute an unlawful physical harm. And under those circumstances, the defendant retains the right to use proportionate force to protect themselves from the immediate threat. Now, this is distinct from a claim of resisting arrest itself. This is self-defense against unreasonable force. And in United States v. Tunley,
Hey, Circle Keeper, it's all talking points from the left, bro. That's some that. You sound like the View saying that.
A common law defense of justification, self-defense. So, the bottom line, if the officer is using unlawful and unreasonable
Doing good,
force
that's
to
good.
effectuate an unlawful
That's good,
arrest,
Leo.
then the defendant is allowed to use self-defense to protect himself from that unreasonable force. So now let's apply what we've learned
Like
to the
and
facts.
subscribe,
So
everybody.
this
Like and
officer
subscribe.
is violently pushing these women who are not fighting back. Is this unreasonable force? And if it is, these women have the right of self-defense. Assault 1. Assault 2. Assault 3. Assault 4. Assault 5. Now, not to hide the ball here, but each one of those assaults are unreasonable uses of force in this particular situation. Now, just to verify that, here is the Department of Homeland Security use of force policy. Page 2 of the policy says law enforcement officers, LEOs, may use force only when no reasonable, effective, safe, or feasible alternative appears to exist, and may use only the level of force that is objectively reasonable in light of the facts and circumstances confronting that law enforcement officer at the time force applied. So, if these two women were just standing there and a safe and feasible alternative existed, like talking to them, then skipping that step violates the policy. Now, let's look at the facts. You're going to determine if the ICE officer's use of force is objectively reasonable based on a policy, because the policy says you can only use force when there's no effective, reasonable, safe alternative. Assault 1. Assault 2. Assault 3. Assault 4. Assault 5. Now, if you believe that was unreasonable or violated department policy, then you must conclude that reasonable officers follow department policy. But it is not the case that not following department policy automatically makes this objectively unreasonable. So this is one factor you need to consider. Were they following departmental policy? And obviously they were not following that policy, which tends to make this unreasonable.
Now, since you're going to be the one judging whether this officer was objectively reasonable under these circumstances, we also now have to figure out, was this a lawful arrest? Now, the law everybody cites is 18 U.S.C. Section 111, assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers or employees. So simply put, it's a misdemeanor to forcibly assault, resist, oppress, impede, intimidate, and interfere with any person designated in Section 1114 of this title, essentially any federal law enforcement officer or employee, and it's going to be a misdemeanor for simple assault. And if this involves physical contact with the victim of the assault or intent to commit another felony, you can get up to 8 years in prison. But now let's see how the courts have interpreted this statute to apply to these particular facts. This is the 8th Circuit, United States of America versus Jack Street. The court says, quote, force is a necessary element of any Sections 111 conviction. However, that element may be satisfied by proof of actual physical contact or by proof of such a threat or display of physical aggression toward the officer as to inspire fear of pain, bodily harm, or death. The Supreme Court also says that this is protected speech. City of Houston versus Hill from 1987. The Supreme Court struck down a law that made it a crime to interrupt police officers. They ruled that the First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal criticism and challenge directed at police officers. So police officers can't just arrest you for blowing whistles and yelling at them. Now, we can apply these to our facts. Are the two women and the victim, Mr. Peretti, are they displaying physical aggression toward the officer as to inspire fear of pain, bodily harm, or death? So here are the two women standing beside the officer's car. They're not blocking it, and they are screaming and yelling at the officer, maybe even blowing whistles. Now, the Supreme Court said this is protected First Amendment speech, so we know they can't use that to arrest the women. And since we need physical aggression toward the officer, we don't see any of that. Matter of fact, what we see is the officer show physical aggression toward the women. So since this physical aggression is a requirement for the statute in the 8th Circuit, where this thing happened, and we don't have any physical aggression, then the officers are making what's known as an unlawful arrest. They cannot arrest these women for standing in the street, and they cannot arrest these women for violating 18 U.S.C. Section 111 in Minnesota. So we have police who have no lawful authority to make this arrest under 18 U.S.C. Section 111 based on court precedent. We also have the officer using excessive force against 3 compliant individuals, and because we have an unreasonable use of force, this allows Peretti to step in between both the officer and the victim here to prevent more unreasonable force. Then, because the officer
join
is
in,
being
like and
prevented
subscribe.
from using
Thank you.
unreasonable force, then escalates and uses a higher level on the force continuum. Pepper spray. By pepper spraying everyone, the people on the ground and Mr. Peretti. Now, there is absolutely no resistance coming from the subjects here. All of the aggression, all of the force is coming from one direction. The officers to the witnesses, who have complied fully. They are now on the sidewalk, they are not in the street, and again, they have not violated federal law. So now everything up to this point has been unlawful by the officers. And if everything is unlawful, then the officers have committed assault against these 3 citizens. And this removes any justification for this type of use of force in this scenario. Now, as you can see, Peretti is being pushed over by the officer, the woman who's on the ground, who's been also pepper sprayed, and we have the woman in the brown jacket who's also been pepper sprayed. They're not assaulting the officer, they're not in the street, they're not blocking the officer, and they have a half can of pepper spray in their face, making it hard for them to breathe, making it hard for them to see. Their face is burning, their eyes are burning, their skin is burning. Now, as Peretti puts himself between the officer and the women who are being pepper sprayed, the officer gets upset and then pulls Peretti to the ground.
People, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Now, before we move forward, let's understand exactly where we're at. Well, let's go back to the law. Graham v. Connor says we have to look at the totality of the circumstances at the time force was used. And the Supreme Court reaffirmed this in Barnes v. Felix in 2025, ruling that an excessive force claim under the Fourth Amendment must be evaluated based on the totality of the circumstances, not solely at the moment an officer perceives a threat. And that's why we're looking at the totality of the circumstances and not just the moment that the deadly physical force was used. Now, I'm pausing you right here because this officer becomes very important because
Like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. Let's get to 1,000. Happy Hump day.
He's looking at the other officers try to get Mr. Peretti into custody, and he sees Peretti's gun because Peretti is a licensed gun holder. And now this officer is going to go and retrieve that sidearm. Now, after the officer has yelled, gun, 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 then the officer retrieves the sidearm, and as you can see, he's turned and moving away. Let's see it from a different angle. So now we're back to this view. You'll see this officer right here pulling his firearm while the other officer is about to pull the gun from Peretti's back. Now, I've paused it after the first shot because some is saying the first shot came from Peretti's gun that was being taken by the officer, and some are saying the first shot is coming from this officer who's pointing their gun at Peretti. But if you notice, after the first shot, Peretti tries to stand up. Now, I'm going to play it in slow motion so you can see Peretti attempting to stand while the officer starts firing shots in his back. Now, at the time of the final shots, Peretti is unarmed. So let me put it all together. Based on what we've seen and the excuses, the officers had absolutely no legal justification for trying to arrest these women, nor do they have any justification for using force against these civilians. Now, in looking at the entirety of the circumstances, we have officers who have no legal justification for making any type of arrest. They go and start assaulting 3 individuals, and one of them ends up dead. Now, we do not live in North Korea, nor do we live in China. So police cannot just go and assault people without being held to account. They need to be justified in using force, and if they're not justified, like in this particular situation, then their force becomes an assault. So now, let me land this plane. We have no crime that was committed at the beginning of this. Police started assaulting these individuals randomly. Then when Peretti tried to stop the illegal assault from the officer escalated with pepper spray, then threw him to the ground, and then used that as an excuse to execute him. Now, we've gone through the law, we've gone through the facts, and we've applied them to this particular situation. Now, after you heard all that, this is where it gets complicated, because not all the officers who fired were unjustified. So let's take each officer separately. The initial officer, the one that assaulted the women, the one that assaulted Prietti, and the one that pepper sprayed everyone, is the officer with the most criminal liability. 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Whosoever under color of any law willfully subjects any person to the deprivation of any rights protected by the Constitution, and if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, and shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life, or may be sentenced to death. Essentially, the initial assaulting officer would be guilty of what's known as felony murder. And this would also apply in Minnesota if the officer is charged under state law. This essentially be the same thing that happened to Derek Chauvin. Now, the other officers are a different story. See, those officers reasonably relied on their colleague who said, gun, gun, gun. And upon hearing a gunshot, they believed the gunshot was coming from the suspect, who was trying to stand up at the time. So those officers can make a credible argument that under the Graham v. Connor standard, what a reasonable officer would do in the same or similar circumstances, that would protect them from both state prosecution and federal prosecution. So at the end of the day, the officer who initiated this unlawful use of force is the one who may carry the most criminal liability out of the bunch. Now, when it comes to civil liability, we have multiple policy violations, we have no law that was actually broken, we have an unlawful arrest, and we have excessive use of force. So the Peretti family, in a civil context, should be paid millions of dollars. So now you have the law, you have the facts, and you've seen how it all works together. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Do like great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer. If you like these type of breakdowns, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join me on my way to 1 million. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out. Peace.
So now I'm just going to give you my opinion. This was obviously a bad shoot. The officers didn't have any authority to make an arrest. They escalated. They used unreasonable amounts of force or
benign legal observe. If our leaders are intentionally creating and encouraging violence and fear, then I hope you will also agree we need new leaders, because these are not leaders. And to the people of Minneapolis, to the Freddie family and the Good family, and these people who were looking out for their neighbors, we want you to know that we are with you and you are not alone. Boy. Just when I thought that I was going to move on past this story and covering what happened with Alex Preddy, we have a new bombshell video basically confirming everybody with common sense that understands how these leftists operate was right about this guy, and the fact that he was not just some benign legal observer who was just recording ICE and he wasn't doing anything at all. No. There's actually new bombshell video that has been dropped by CNN, right? They're destroying their own narrative in this video, right? We're going to talk about this. That shows that Alex Preddy was actively harassing ICE agents as they were trying to do their jobs, along with other legal observers who were doing more than just observing. They were blowing whistles, okay? Obviously, the whole point of blowing the whistles was to obstruct. So he wasn't just a legal observer who was not doing anything at all. No, he was actively a part of an obstruction campaign that was being waged. It was an operation against ICE as they were trying to capture an illegal immigrant. Take a look at this.
There's brand new video of the minutes leading up to this fatal shooting of Alex Preddy. We want to warn you, it's disturbing.
I'm here. Back up.
They're preparing pepper spray.
Get out of here! This is our city, not yours! Get out! Back up! I am not getting any closer! Get out of here! Get out of here! Illegal observers! You can't do it! Absolute info.
Keep watching.
Get back!
Agents are threatening observers with pepper spray. They are detaining observers as seen over there. I'm still recording.
Christine, that you heard that. I'm going to apologize for all of the whistling, right? I know it was annoying as hell. It was annoying as hell for me to watch the whole thing and to listen to that whistling over and over again. You can only imagine how annoying it was for those agents. But I don't know if CNN realizes this. I don't think that they do, right? This destroys their narrative. What they were doing was not legally observing peacefully. They were obstructing. This dude was acting like an unhinged lunatic, right? Now it all makes sense, right? It all makes sense. I want to see Alex Preddy's video. His video has to be released to the public. I think his video and I think the body cam are going to tell us a whole lot about what happened in this situation that is going to destroy the narrative, because just that video right there, in my opinion, is very, very, very damning for Alex Preddy, right? Again, I don't know how the mainstream media is going to interpret it. They're going to spin it and say, oh, he was just across the street yelling and cursing and getting in the road and, telling ICE he hates them while whistles are blowing because they want the illegals to know that ICE is in the area. He was obstructing. No, they were obstructing, right? That was obstruction. That's what they were doing. He was a part of this group, and he was acting like an unhinged lunatic out there. An unhinged lunatic the whole time. So I get it. I understand why things went down the way that it went down, right? But everybody knew this. Everybody with common sense figured, hold on now. There's a lot more to this story, right? This guy, he just not out there, right, doing what he's doing as a peaceful legal observer nurse, right? Now, also, CNN, right? I don't understand. I don't know if they understand that they're destroying their narrative here. They also put out a bombshell report about how Alex Preddy had a run-in with federal agents just a week before this because he was legal observing, aka obstructing, tried to obstruct, and then he ended up having a physical confrontation with agents before this incident.
CNN is learning that Alex Preddy had a physical encounter with federal agents about a week before he was shot and killed by law enforcement. Sources tell CNN that Preddy broke a rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting. Priscilla Alvarez is breaking that story for us. What else are you hearing, Priscilla?
Dana, we're learning more details along with my colleague Jeff Winter about what exactly transpired a week before Alex Preddy was shot in Minneapolis and died this past weekend. Now, in this earlier incident, he stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle. Preddy later told one of these sources that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, appearing to leave him with a broken rib. According to this source, and I'm quoting here, that source said, quote, that day he thought he was going to die. Now, Preddy was later given medication that is consistent with treating a broken rib, according to records reviewed by CNN. Sources also say that he was known to federal law enforcement, though it's unclear whether it was this incident or another with federal agents that they knew him, they knew of him. It's also unclear whether the officers who tackled him on Saturday knew who he was. What we do know, however, is that federal immigration officers have been collecting personal information of protesters and agitators within the context of.
Thank you guys staying with me. An hour in. Appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe.
Towards officers
you guys get information. That's all I can do.
In fact, just Tuesday, the department also publicized an online tip form to share information about people allegedly harassing ICE officers. We've also heard Tom Homan, the White House border czar, say that a database would be created for those who are arrested for impeding law enforcement. But thus far, in our queries to the Department of Homeland Security, they have said that no such database exists.
Unbelievable. There's a lot more to peel back there. Thank you so much for bringing us that news, Priscilla.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So this guy was a serial harasser of ICE, right? So he was running around stalking ICE agents, stalking them, right?
Like and subscribe, everybody.
He would blow his whistle and harass ICE agents who are doing their jobs. But for whatever reason, leftists and the liberal media,
They don't see this as obstruction, right? They don't see this as domestic terrorism. I think that it is. I mean, I think that when you're running around trying to intimidate, harass, and stalk ICE agents so that they can't do their jobs for political gain, right? Political reasons is all political. That is domestic terrorism. I don't know what to tell you. I like at some point people have to acknowledge the reality for what this is. This guy was a part of a group of serial harassers, people who ran around harassing ICE repeatedly. Now, again, this guy felt like he was about to die in that situation. His physical encounter with ICE. CNN ain't going into too many details as to why is it that he ended up getting tackled or whatever, like what exactly happened to him that resulted in him breaking his rib, right? But he wasn't killed, right? He wasn't killed, okay? However, what happened to him apparently prompted him to bring a firearm to his next encounter with ICE, which led to his death. Now, again, let's take a step back and think about that, right? Take a step back and think about that, because the media told us that, hey, it's his right to carry his firearm. He's right. They're right. They are. It is his Second Amendment right. I'm not disputing that.
So I get it. So the first time you had an altercation with ICE, you got your ribs broken, taking medication. Obviously, you had no weapons on you because they would have mentioned it. So now you go back with ICE again. This time you got a weapon. And now you're not here no more. Once again, not educated. He was not doing educating shit at all that day. That shit crazy.
But I think the argument that some people have been making is that, well,
on both sides,
is showing intent, right? If you take everything in context, the totality of circumstances, and what we know now, that he just had a prior encounter with ICE that was violent, right? In which he said he felt like he was almost about to die. And then in his next encounter where he's harassing and stalking ICE, he has a firearm, a loaded firearm, right? And again, I had no problems with him exercising Second Amendment rights. But there are also reports that he doesn't really carry like that. He doesn't usually carry.
Amazing,
he may go to the range every now and then, but he doesn't carry. He's not the type of person that carries all the time. Now all of a sudden he decided to carry. What does that signal? That signals that he was expecting a confrontation with ICE. Right? To me, again, I'm not saying that he can't carry.
You didn't have a gun the first time, but you have one the second time. And the first time you had altercation with ICE, you got your ribs fucked up, taking medication, then you go with ICE again, now you got a gun.
Because a lot of people are going to misinterpret this as an attack on his Second Amendment right. No. This really just backs up my whole claim about Alex Preddy from the beginning, which is that he was irresponsibly exercising his rights because he went there looking for a confrontation. Everything that we know, everything that we're now learning about this guy is showing that he went there expecting a confrontation with ICE. His parents told him, don't get involved with ICE, right? Before this. Why did his parents tell him that? Why did his parents tell him to avoid these type of confrontations? Because they knew that he was radicalized. And he did everything that responsible gun owners are not supposed to do. He went to a situation involving federal law enforcement. We're not even talking about another civilian, right? Federal law enforcement, armed agents, looking for a confrontation. That's exactly what he did. Looking for, expecting it. That's why he armed himself, because he usually does not. But he just had a prior encounter with ICE where he ended up breaking his rib because he was trying to obstruct. So the fact that he armed himself the second time tells you everything about his intent and what he was expecting to happen. This dude was radicalized. And the crazy part is that I was kind of giving the dude the benefit of the doubt when it comes to his intent. I was like, well, he does have a Second Amendment right. I'm not just going to assume he went out there with the intent to try to hurt somebody, right? But now I'm starting to think that maybe DHS, maybe they weren't lying. Maybe they weren't embellishing in that press conference. Maybe he was seeking revenge, right? Now I'm starting to think like, okay, maybe he did go out there with the intent to cause, what did he say, to massacre the agents? Maybe he did. Maybe they weren't BSing. Maybe they know a lot of stuff that we don't know yet. See, this is what you get. This is what I get for giving the benefit of the doubt to a communist. I'll never make that mistake again, right? Never make the mistake of giving the benefit of the doubt to the communists, okay? Even though, you know, regardless, I think that what happened to him, legally speaking, was self-defense from the Border Patrol and legally justified. But now I'm starting to think, hey, maybe they weren't embellishing about this dude branding his gun. Maybe he did actually do that, right? Maybe he actually did do that, right? I mean, seriously. Like, at this point, I'm starting to think, maybe he did. We just don't have the video footage yet, right? Again, we need to see more evidence, more video footage that comes out. Because, again, my gut feeling is that, again, this narrative here, at least from the media, yeah, it's going to fall apart, okay? It's going to fall apart the more evidence that comes out. Because, again, this dude certainly was radicalized. And I'm at the point where I believe that he probably was radicalized enough to essentially have the intent to cause harm, right? To show up to a place like that and to harm these Border Patrol agents, maybe as an act of revenge for what happened to him a week earlier. And listen, these people, they're willing to sacrifice themselves. They've already stated on the record, right? I've covered this before. I covered this a long time ago. That Democrats said they were freaked out by the fact that their constituents, these radicals, were expecting Democrats to sacrifice themselves. That Democrats should be willing to die for the illegal immigrants. So these individuals certainly are radicalized enough to believe that, you know, hey, it's okay if they sacrifice themselves for illegals. And that could have been this dude's mindset. Seriously, that could have been his mindset. And that radicalization is what led to him losing his life. Again, all this stuff was obvious from the beginning, right? I mean, common sense could have told you all of this. But now, given everything that's coming out, now we almost have a complete picture. I want to see his camera footage.
Like and subscribe, everybody.
His phone camera footage is going to show us and tell us a lot, okay, about what happened. And it ain't going to look good for him. Not in my opinion. So, with that being said, more evidence, right, that, again, this dude and others were running around, harassing, stalking ICE. Apparently, there are encrypted chats that have exposed the protesters tracking ICE before Alex Preddy was shot and killed.
Reports are emerging detailing the organization, coordination, and alleged funding of the protests in Minnesota, including claims from a conservative independent journalist that he infiltrated a group that tracks federal agents. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joins us. And Jeff, as details continue to develop tonight, we do know his
claims. How you doing, James? Thanks for joining in.
Chat. What else are you learning?
So Cam Higby is the conservative independent journalist making the claims that he infiltrated a signal group designed to monitor and impede federal agents. But he's not alone. Multiple reports are surfacing from similar journalists, all of whom say
they get 19 subscribers, 19 likes.
Chats.
Thank you. Happy Wednesday.
Conservative independent journalist Cam Higby claiming in a thread on X that he, quote, infiltrated signal groups from around Minneapolis, writing their sole intention was to track down federal agents and impede, assault, and obstruct them.
I was in the signal chat for several days before I felt an overwhelming obligation to make the public aware of what was happening.
The thread focusing on how the groups allegedly use handbooks, training manuals, and share license plate numbers of suspected federal vehicles. One of Higby's posts reportedly playing an active dispatch tracking the vehicle he was in.
Yeah, that gray F-150 just drove past me on the opposite way towards Cedar. That was on Lake and Park.
In response to the reporting, FBI Director Kash Patel announcing Monday the agency is opening a probe.
Just so you guys know, we look at all this stuff. As soon as Higby put that post out, I opened an investigation on it.
Now, Fox News Digital also reporting it obtained encrypted signal messages that show anti-ICE rapid responders actively tracking the location Glam Doll Donuts, where 37-year-old Alex Preddy was shot and killed outside. Plus, at least 26 reported entries into a database called MN Ice Plates in the hours before and after the fatal shooting. Vice President J.D. Vance weighing in on X, writing, quote, "This level of engineered chaos is unique to Minneapolis. It's the direct consequence of far-left agitators working with local authorities." Former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, John Fishwick, telling the National News Desk, when it comes to these chats, people are allowed to communicate when law enforcement is in a public place.
You have an absolute First Amendment right to let the public know when law enforcement is in a public space.
With the intent to obstruct, right?
That's
Are you really allowed to
stupid.
do that? Right? Is that what we're doing now? We're saying that you have a First Amendment right to basically conspire to obstruct law enforcement, right? To obstruct enforcing the law, right? So basically, you can stop police from arresting criminals who are committing crimes. I'm trying to figure out, why is that not a crime, right? Why would that not be a crime? I don't know, right? I'm just saying, somebody educate me on that. But I'm just saying, like, the intent of the chat is to obviously obstruct, okay? It's not just tracking, okay? It's not like what the Waze app where you can see, where police are at or where people think police are at or whatever while you're driving. It ain't that, right? It's not that. I think it's more sophisticated and nefarious than that.
You can tell people that, and you have a First Amendment right to do that.
But he says that First Amendment protection disappears when there are intentions to obstruct or interfere.
There we go.
I think it would be inferred by using an encrypted app that you're trying to keep that information private and only have certain people know it, including the folks that ICE might be looking for.
Now, the New York Post also reporting multiple far-left groups for allegedly helping to fund the ongoing protests in Minneapolis, including Indivisible Twin Cities, a branch of the anti-Trump group called the Indivisible Project, based in Washington, D.C. Reporting for the National News Desk.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, so I certainly believe that Democrats are part of this conspiracy, for sure. This signal chat thing is going viral because it shows that Democrats are in on the conspiracy. And this is why I really, really, really hope the Trump administration does not go soft on these people, to be honest with you. This is why I feel like they should ratchet up. Let's be real. Keep Greg Bovino there and continue to let him drag his cohortes all over these people, right? Seriously. Look at this guy. Tim Walz's campaign strategist, Amanda Kohler, was in the signal chat. So again, the people that's a part of his campaign were a part of the chat. You have the lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan, who's a woke lunatic, also a part of the chat. These people are panicking.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for joining in. Good morning.
I need to leave the state. Fled has been exposed. So again, you have major leaders and people who have influence within the Democrat Party in Minnesota who are part of this chat, right? The whole point of which is to harass, dox, and obstruct ICE agents. So the more information that comes out about this, man, it really shows you how
Like and subscribe.
it really goes. And it actually is insane, right? That as a country we're dealing with this. And you would think that the media will actually do their damn jobs and to report on stuff like this and to hold these Democrats accountable for what, in my opinion, is a criminal conspiracy. It really is, right? But again, the media is in on it as well too. They're in on the criminal conspiracy against the government. That's what they're doing. They're conspiring against the federal government to not allow them to enforce the law. It's insanity. It really is. And we have to play defense while these people are quite literally breaking the law, right? Engaged in criminal activity on behalf of illegal immigrants. Insane. Insane the world that we live in. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
Well, there's no way in hell that Senate Democrats can support this administration's agenda.
Boom. Thanks for
as long
joining
as
in.
that DHS bill is in the rest of what's called a minibus, it's a package
Like and
of bills.
subscribe, everybody.
Senate
Like and
Democrats
subscribe,
should
please.
not lift one finger to help advance the Trump agenda.
So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this one question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally.
This job, and these people who want to say follow ICE, and film ICE, you know what? You can protest; they have that right. But when you cross the line, and we've proven
Yeah, like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe.
ICE officer, you will be prosecuted. And one thing I'm pushing for right now, Laura, we're going to create a database. Those people that are arrested for interference, impediment, assault, we're going to make them famous. We're going to put their face on TV.
Like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notifications. Anytime I go live and make a video, y'all already know that. Dude, let's get into this. Now let's get to the next clip of these devils who are not going to make heaven. This is what they're now saying that they want to do, because ICE is doing their job that we've elected them to do. And I'm going to show you in a minute that Barack Obama has said the same thing. And then we'll get to the interview with Jorge Ventura, which he's going to give you a synopsis of what is happening on the streets. Roll the clip.
Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Angie Craig of Minnesota. Thanks for being with us. I know it's been a heck of a last few weeks for you and your state, as Minnesota's been at the heart of what is now becoming groundswell of people from both sides of the aisle speaking out and saying how this administration is behaving in Minnesota is not okay. I know you voted against funding DHS. You're now calling for your Senate colleagues to do the same. What specific changes are needed?
Well, there's no way in hell that Senate Democrats can support this administration's agenda. So as long as that DHS bill is in the rest of what's called a minibus, it's a package of bills, Senate Democrats should not lift one finger to help advance the Trump agenda. What we're seeing in Minnesota has just been terrorizing our state and our community.
Can this become a bipartisan movement? We do see more Republican members calling for an independent probe into the death of Alex Pretty, both in the House and in the Senate. The Homeland Security Committee chairs are calling for testimony from high-ranking DHS officials. Who do you want to hear from exactly, and what are your top questions?
Time out. I want y'all to be very clear with this. Listen to her response. Anybody saying they want an independent probe into the death of a citizen killed at the hands of the government is fair game. We should investigate this stuff. I can see clearly that the agents will be justified, but it's fair that people want an investigation. There's no shying away from the investigation. If you did the right thing, you fine. Investigate it. Do due diligence. Nobody has a problem with that. Democrats and Republicans alike should be lockstep in saying it's okay to investigate. Let's get to the bottom of it, make sure people did what was right. Make sure people were justified in their actions. It's clear to me that they were justified, but that's why a court and an investigation is necessary. Investigate it. But I haven't heard this lady yet, but watch what she say. I haven't heard her. I haven't watched it. I could be wrong. I have a feeling, based on her partisan behavior, that she's going to acknowledge nothing associated with the investigation. She don't want that. They want ICE to disappear and not do their job. That's it. Verdict, you guys have literally sold past half of our image. Very clear. This is what the Democrats are voting against. They want to shut the government down because Border Patrol is doing this. I want you to ask any of your politicians, either in writing or in person, or in an interview or press conference. Very clear. This is what the Democrats are voting against. They want to shut the government down because Border Patrol is doing this. I want you to ask any of your politicians, either in writing or in person or in an interview or press conference, why don't they mention anything that Tom Homan's about to say? Why do they never mention this? Roll the clip.
Let me tell you, in the last couple of days, what's happened in Boston. They arrested Victor Gomez Perez, a 33-year-old criminal alien from Guatemala, with charges of aggravated rape, assault and battery with dangerous weapon, indecent assault and battery on a victim 14 years or younger. They arrested Kaylee Espinosa, a 34-year-old criminal alien from Colombia, with charges of aggravated assault on a pregnant victim. They arrested Joshua Gonzalez, a 23-year-old criminal alien from Dominican Republic, with charges for trafficking heroin, more morphine, opium, resisting police, disorderly conduct, and drug distribution. They also arrested Samuel Armando Barrera, a 20-year-old criminal illegal alien from Guatemala, pending charges for assault and battery on a child. So Mayor Wu and Governor Healy, they ought to be calling ICE and thanking them for making their streets safer, for protecting their communities and taking these people off the street. They've turned a blind eye to this. They're sanctuary cities. Sanctuaries, cities, and sanctuary states are sanctuaries for criminals.
How you doing, Alan? Thanks for joining in. Like and subscribe.
To arrest a bad guy in the jail rather than have to go in the community to find them. Because when you go in the community to find them, it puts ICE officers at greater risk. It puts the community at greater risk. It puts the alien at greater risk because anything can happen on a street risk. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to prioritize public safety threats when we got governors and mayors who are releasing these public safety threats every day into the community. That causes the crime rate, and we've seen some terrible incidents in the last few days where innocent victims are murdered. This past year, I've seen innocent Americans raped and murdered by people who are not supposed to be here. So rather than going back and forth and say, well, ICE has got a car parked near a church, that is ridiculous. You're out there looking for people like this, exactly what they're doing.
I would argue that actually the ICE vehicle parked outside a Spanish mass is a frightening sight, given what has happened in this country. I also, with respect, sir, thank you for the information.
Why would it be frightening for you if you ain't doing nothing wrong? When I'm in church and I see police outside, I'm nosy. I ain't worried about me because I ain't done nothing. I want to know who got in trouble out there. Matter of fact, at least they out here in case somebody want to act a fool. Why would I be scared? That's about as stupid as somebody saying because I'm black, I should be afraid when I see police. I'm driving, roll my window down looking. I'm a looky-loo. I'm like, what was God dang, they arrested 6 people over there. God, they tripping. People out here acting a fool. They doing their job. I ain't got one time thinking, I'm a black man. Cops are coming to get me. I ain't did nothing. And I wish, that's like hitting the lottery. That's like going to Vegas and gambling.
Like and subscribe, everybody.
You guys come and arrest me for no reason because I'm black, I'm going to be rich. And I'm going to quit this podcast. I'm going to sue for $400 million. I wish a cop would come arrest me for no reason. Same thing with these legal aliens. I mean, same thing if you legal. I wish that ICE would come and detain me and punch me in the head and say I'm illegal and they wrong. The government gonna go broke. We gonna be another $1 trillion in debt. I'll be suing so much. But when you ain't supposed to be here, when you know you are cutting up and you're doing crime, of course you're afraid of them. Just like the Lord. I'm not afraid of the Lord. I love the Lord. I'm going to go to heaven. I ain't cutting up, so I ain't got nothing to worry about. The people that sinning and grinning, y'all the ones don't like to go to church. Y'all the ones scared of what the Lord going to do. Y'all the ones looking at fire and brimstone. It's the same thing with law enforcement. All right, let's go to clip 103. I'm going to skip 101. This is what CNN polls say about America's interest in deportations. Roll the clip.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times.
Thanks, Andy. You're right.
CBS News, 57%.
Biden Harris, they fucked
ABC
up.
News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very...
Biden Harris could have hired Tom Homan. He could have took care of it. Obama did. Same guy.
Clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact...
If Harris didn't want to do it, she could have got Tom Homan the first time.
Arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters. Feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally want immigration levels decreased. This
Appreciate
includes
it.
and
Too
illegal
fast. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. 100.
I got to move fast on the show. So this is obviously 2024. It's
Thank you.
2026 right now. This is why the Democrats are afraid. Go back to that
Appreciate
clip.
it, man. Name Deontay 100 on that, man. Thank you.
This is why they need to come after ICE and say that ICE is bad and that all these people getting killed whom they actually deserve the use of force that they're getting. Them dying is not deserving to die.
Thanks for joining in, William.
It ain't got nothing to do with nobody can make that determination. Do you deserve to get shot for your
Like
behavior?
and subscribe.
Yes.
Like and
deserve to get
subscribe.
shot. But the fear is that the country is moving towards understanding the value of deporting these people and the lawfare and the manipulation of tax dollars. And this is the reason why Republicans will win in perpetuity, because Democrats have taken a bad position on this. So what do they need to do? They need to fearmonger you. They need to act like everything is bad that the Republicans are doing when it comes to immigration. Let me do something real quick, and I'm gonna play Jorge's interview. Let's jump to Barack Obama. I gotta do this, and then Jorge is gonna give y'all a glimpse of what's going on in Minnesota.
What's up, Critical? Good morning, Critical. Thanks for joining in, bro.
Let's start with Obama's actual words, and then we'll get to how stupid these kids are that's on college campuses. Let's go to Barack Obama's own words. We got a succession of clips from Barack Obama himself.
Thank you,
start
guys.
from the top and just roll through all the Obama clips. This was Barack Obama when he was the president, and none of your favorite wusses were saying anything. They weren't crying in the street. They weren't reporting on it. They wasn't saying he's a racist. They wasn't saying sugar honey iced tea. And I'm going to give you a few
Blaze, thanks for joining in.
to take this clip and send this to your mind dead family members and friends who are still acting like they have amnesia.
Like and subscribe, everybody. Help a brother out. Like and subscribe.
Calling for the deportation of
Happy hump day.
I'm gonna give you a second. Hit the like button. Hit the like button while we wait. I'm gonna give y'all a minute to get and share this with somebody. You find somebody and share it with them.
Hit that like button. Subscribe.
All right, we'll give them a second. Make sure you comment, like, give your super chats. We're gonna try to hit the super chats at the end of the show. We haven't been doing super chats, but we're gonna try to do them because I love it when you guys.
Too fast. You my very first super chat. I just got monetized yesterday, so I appreciate this, man. Thank you so much.
Give us comments and stuff like that, and we can read them. All right, and before we get to that, make sure
like and subscribe, everybody.
Tatum Store and get you one of these Ice Baby shirts. My team put this together. This is the funniest shirt, and I'm literally going to wear this everywhere. I might wear this to the Phoenix Open tomorrow or next week. Put a blazer on it, dress it up a little bit, and wear it. And I think it's a discount. If you put ICE 26, I think it's 26% off. So you get 26% off when you go to the store. If the undocumented workers come over the border, will be deported. If you put a blazer on it, dress it up a little bit, and wear it. Because you plan. Listen to your savior, Barack Obama, and what he said about immigration. Roll the clip.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
Come on, Barry. Let's get the other clip. Roll it.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we had. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem. And the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety
Thank you.
laws.
Appreciate you guys.
I will make
Let's
sure
get to
that we
1,000 and
finally have the
beyond.
kind of border security that we need. That's step number one. Step number two is to take on employers. Right now, an employer has more of a chance of getting hit by lightning than be prosecuted for hiring an undocumented worker. That has to change. They have to be held accountable. Start shedding some light on the problem, and we can once again be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. That's what I intend to do as president of the United States.
No, what the?
happened? What happened? I don't think nobody disagree with that. Do you? Barack, is that you? Who disagrees with that? But they are now saying, why would we get rid of these illegals? They're the ones cutting the yards. They're the ones working in the stores. They're the ones doing this. He said they shouldn't even be working on no job. We should prosecute people who are hiring illegal aliens. Come on, put him up. I want to, come on, keep going. Roll it.
You know, I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed.
Come on, Barry.
And Congress right now has not changed what I consider to be a broken immigration system. And what that means is that we have certain obligations to enforce the laws that are in place, even if we think that in many cases the results may be tragic. There are going to be some stories that break our hearts. And more importantly, we're going to continue to have an economy that is stifled by a really inefficient system where not only are we deporting folks, but we also have a legal immigration system that is so bottlenecked that it forces sometimes people.
Thank you. Like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.
Y'all still mad? Come on, I got some more. Thank you for joining the show. Come on.
You've broken the law. You didn't come here the way you were supposed to. So this is not going to be a free ride. What's going to happen is you are going to learn English.
You got to learn English. Hillary Clinton said the same thing.
Go to the back of the line so that you don't get ahead of somebody who is in Mexico City applying legally. I think the American people, they appreciate and believe in immigration.
Right, Andy. He ain't hear shit Obama said.
500,000 people pouring over the border without any kind of mechanism to control it. What? All right. Let's see how stupid kids on campus have become. Let's see how stupid they've become. Now, this is today in America. I wish I was doing kind of scams.
Let's get 40 subscribers. Let's do that. Can you guys do that? Appreciate it. Trying to get to 1,000 and beyond.
Taking the money from them and teaching them foolery. Teaching them how to be stupid and not be able to use their education. That's a genius, and then they have to pay it back for the rest of their lives.
It's the opposite.
You didn't have to teach them anything.
It's the opposite, Sam.
You actually untaught them. I swear that some of these people were smarter before they went there. Listen to what they doing.
Donald Trump announced this past week that he would be urging ICE and other administration authorities to seek out people living here illegally that have broken the law, to deport them. So I have a quote for you here that's been making the rounds on social media about the deportation of criminal illegal aliens. "We are a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our laws, and I believe they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%, and we're going to keep focusing on threats to our security." What's your thought on that quote and that?
Hour and 40 minutes in. Thank you guys staying with me. It's an hour and 40 in. Appreciate it. Thank you. Like and subscribe.
Policy in general.
I think that policy comes from a place of white American nationalism. Donald Trump has kind of embraced this rhetoric of racism and xenophobia that is not beneficial to our country at all.
I don't think that quote really stands true.
This administration has totally not done anything moral.
This is really awful. Amnesty does not necessarily mean that we're losing border security. I think that Trump feels that way.
I think that's a bad decision because the United States should be open to immigrants. It's they call it land of the free for a reason.
We just have to advocate for those kind of people and people in Congress Ocasio-Cortez, who is helping people overcome these kinds of things.
Crimes do not nullify your humanity, and people are coming here in search of opportunity.
I'm going to show you the person that said that quote. Is that surprising?
Yeah, a little bit.
Why is that surprising?
Because I thought it was the Trump administration that said something like that.
Yeah, it's quite surprising. I thought it was from Trump.
I didn't expect it to be Obama either.
Why did you not expect it to be Obama?
Because he's black. Oh wow.
I guess
He's black. I didn't know that.
It just
Fuck
never
outta here.
occurred to me that it could be Obama.
Is that surprising that it's a quote from President Obama?
Yeah, that was surprising for sure. Yeah.
Do you think it's still a practice of white nationalism, though, to deport criminal illegal aliens?
I think the way Trump's doing it is.
Okay. But President Obama, to this point in Trump's presidency, Obama actually deported more people, though. So it's in practice, it was more from Obama, though.
How to spell Mark. Thanks, man. Appreciate you, Mark.
My understanding of
Thank you. Like and subscribe, everybody.
Just that Obama was more liberal as far as amnesty and border security.
Thank you so much.
I expected that quote to come from Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows the hypocrisy in politics. So one person can say something 5 years ago, and next thing you know, it doesn't apply to them anymore, and that they can now be the morality police for whoever is in charge now.
Does that change your opinion of the practice to know that President Obama did the same thing? Actually, to this point in his presidency, deported more people than President Trump had at this point.
No. Again, I just think that there's a moral way to do it, and I don't know a ton about Obama's deportation policies, but I imagine that they were a lot more humane than the ones currently going on.
Brainwashed. Like, do y'all get it? Like, I know that y'all love me because I'm saying exactly what you feel. And I watch this content and I put it out there so you don't have to. These people are, you would think after they hear that, they'd say, I was wrong. Maybe I should rethink everything I think Trump is doing. Maybe he's not as bad as I thought he was. I never thought of that. Because you idiots are making a determination without understanding history. You guys are revised history, and your teachers are probably telling you that Barack Obama never did any of this stuff. But before I get to the Jorge interview, and because you guys are going to love this interview, I want to give a shout out to a super chat. Taylor, thank you so much for the super chat. Nice coverage on the shooting. I'm going to send it out. Love that you have no regrets in what you say. You don't give a sugar honey iced tea. Amen and amen.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. We run a breaking news channel here, and we pride ourselves on being first, fast, and accurate, and we thank you for subscribing. Last night, within minutes of Ilhan Omar being attacked at an event, we added a question mark here for a reason, because everything seemed very suspicious about what happened. We played you the video, and we said we'd probably learn more in the morning, and we certainly have. This is the video of Ilhan Omar last night at an event in Minneapolis. Ilhan.
If you watch my video clip this whole entire time, they all match, they all come together, they all combine, making one big story. Hope you guys like it. And follow back after I repost it. Appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe.
Omar is giving a speech, and in this speech, a degenerate, bumbling man hops up and sprays her with a syringe. Watch the moment happen here.
Nome must resign or face impeachment.
So he mumbles something and gets tackled, and we thought, well, this is extremely strange because Ilhan Omar, totally unbothered by this, goes back and keeps giving her speech. She also, by the way, directly rushes the individual that attacks her. The individual, by the way, also doesn't really attack her. He just kind of jumps off to the side after spraying her in the torso and runs right into her security guard as Ilhan Omar gets a chance to look tough going after him, quote unquote. But what did he spray on Ilhan Omar? Nobody knows. People in the crowd say this smells really bad. So it's obviously potent.
Right, the red states no issues when it comes to immigrants.
There are acid attacks, by the
It's
way.
not a sanctuary state. That's what it is. Illinois, the same thing here in Illinois.
Dangerous. You should get yourself to a hospital.
ICE supposed to come here in Rockford
But
too.
instead, Ilhan Omar demands that she keep giving her speech, and her security guards just let her.
January 6th, what law enforcement died on January 6th? They all died after January 6th.
By the way, every
Do your
single
research.
media outlet on
Flex.
Earth was there to cover this. Funny how that always happens. You can see the number of cameras in the crowd. Fox News, CNN, C-SPAN was covering.
Should have been a gun. No, don't kill her.
No, it is not. For some dingy
Just deport her back to Somalia.
Basement in Minneapolis, and so it just spiked our suspicions. And well, it also was, of course, a very bad news week for Ilhan Omar. There's a reason why people are calling her Jessie Smollett right now. Part of that bad news week came because of us, actually, our channel. We exposed Ilhan Omar's fake winery. Millions of people have watched this, 38,000 reposts, 106,000 likes, and we show that Ilhan Omar is claiming millions off of a winery that doesn't exist. She's also being put under federal investigation because of her finances, and today seems like a perfect
Right, no officer died.
get attacked.
A citizen died, but no officer.
Online. They think we're idiots. Jessie Smollett 2.0.
How you doing, Tammy? Thanks for joining in.
Her attacker's name's Andy Kazimierskiak. Okay.
The man died after,
that,
bro.
Let's just say are not MAGA.
Do your
We're
research,
claiming
man.
MAGA far right-wing attacker. No, actually, they're a far left-wing family. Proud right-wing dads, MAGA dads, aren't super proud of their gender pronoun, gender fluid, queer kids like this with their red hair to boot. This is not typical MAGA America First family activity. Ilhan Omar's alleged attacker seems to have some far left gender
Thank you,
pronoun
Critical.
children. It's a little strange that. He also sprayed her on the torso
Appreciate you guys.
rather than directly in the eyes where you would actually want a lunatic to hit you. He also runs away after spraying her. But this is the one that really got me. Odd that Ilhan Omar gives a quick glance to the guy before he stood up. Look at this. Look at this video. This is indisputable. She looks right at him and gives him a nod. Attack. Direct eye contact. Look at that. She can't help herself. They're so bad at this man. The cameras, by the way, all the media attention at this dingy little town hall, so many media outlets there, amazing this. They all focused in on this guy. Look at him in the front row. This bumbling moron sitting there, chugging water in the front row, nervous as hell, literally playing a part in an SNL skit. She gave him the go-ahead nod just before she stood up, just before he stood up. She is a fraud. LMA. Oh, this funniest political hoax of all time. Horribly planned and executed. President Trump's comment on Ilhan Omar. Trump says he thinks that Ilhan Omar staged it. She probably had herself sprayed knowing her, says Donald Trump. No, I don't think about her. I think she's a fraud. I really don't think about that, says Trump. Why did Ilhan Omar continue her speech after getting sprayed with a foul-smelling substance? Anybody else would immediately decontaminate, change clothes, at least get out to a hospital. Unless, of course, you knew it was nothing and it was staged. That's right, she did. She kept speaking for 10 minutes in the same outfit. And then the same outfit. It could have been acid. It could have been.
Thank you.
People have access to all types of terrible things you don't want sprayed on you. Ilhan Omar just kept rolling. Some people sprayed something that just went as we rehearsed in drama class. Bravo. Sure, it's curious that Ilhan Omar immediately knew the substance sprayed on her had zero risk to her and everybody else in the room. It's almost like she knew it was nothing. President Trump asked if he'd seen the video of Ilhan Omar. She probably had herself sprayed knowing her. I'm not saying that this incident was staged, but a sitting congresswoman is at an event where an unknown man gets up and sprays an unknown liquid on her. Then she bravely runs towards him without reflective safety reaction that most people would do, virtually everyone would do.
Too fast, you see, he was her brother
her security gets
or her husband.
The attacker runs right into the arms of her security. Then, instead of taking her to the hospital to get checked out, her security just lets her continue the speech. By the way, the room was packed full of people. So what if he had sprayed some type of I don't know, horrible thing that could make everybody else sick. I mean, this is so poor. This is so poorly done. Somalis are funny, man. The third world scams are so blatantly obvious. It's Bollywood level acting. That's what the internet's saying. Yep. Everyone's saying, wait a second, these are the guy's kids? Oh, okay. Got it. Let's take a look at the latest Somali fraud, Ilhan Omar attacked hoax. This is the guy's mugshot. He really looks remorseful, right? Yeah. Netflix adaptation. This is MAGA country. Yeah, this is how you know it's fake AF. The man sprayed unknown liquid on her, no immediate evacuation, no hazmat, no emergency decontamination. In an age of biological risks, the only reason you do that is if you knew it was a setup, and so did your security. She didn't even check to see what she was sprayed with. No napkin, no nothing. She just acted like she was finna fight him. I cannot believe they actually tried this. False attack, says Terrence Williams. Did a whole video on it, and that video is now since gone viral. 27,000 likes, 6,000 reposts. If somebody randomly sprayed you with a substance, you're running to the nearest bathroom, straight to the hospital. Instead, Ilhan Omar acted like it was nothing and continued her speech. This is unusual behavior for a crazy member of Congress. I don't know what's funnier, the video of Ilhan Omar pretending to be sprayed, or the fact that everybody knows that it was staged.
Damn.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go.
Them Somalis funny as hell when it comes to scamming.
She goes toward the man. Totally not what you do if you have actual fear. She never even tries to cover her face. That's another instinct. Everybody knows what happens when you get sprayed. You cover your face. For somebody who said this country should be more fearful of white men, she's not fearful. The man immediately retreats. Nothing you would do if you were actually attacking somebody. She looks up right at him as though she knows what's coming. She doesn't care about
like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.
Was too on point. He had him perfectly archetyped, first perceived as a white American male, just like the Waltz campaign. It all seems very, very stupid 6th grade prank to me. 3rd-degree assault charges, attacking a member of Congress is a federal crime. The Justice Department must fully investigate this attack. The FBI must interview the suspect along with obtaining a material statement from Ilhan Omar. No one is above the law, says Mike Davis. Oh, man, this one was pretty fun.
Time for an adventure.
Huh? What?
Welcome back to Somalia.
Oh no!
Okay. The internet is too much, man. The internet is too much. You know, stage is kind of a thing. But when you're winning, if you're smart, you don't do it when you're losing. You only do it if you have a 3rd world IQ. I'm so thankful for Ilhan Omar. That might be the funniest thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. The absolute worst execution of anything attempted since I've been born. Everybody asking the same questions, like, wait a second. Why wasn't the man trying to protect himself, shield his identity? Why didn't she barely flinch? Why did the man run away right into the arms of her security
guards? Good one, Michael. Good one.
Ilhan Omar, by the way, getting ratioed here after doing I'm okay, I'm a survivor. So this small agitator isn't going to intimidate me from doing my work. I don't let bullies win. It's like it was all planned, man. It's like they wrote this out ahead of time. Grateful for my incredible constituents. Minnesota's strong. Dude, she's getting ratioed. Destroyed here. 9,000 reposts, 15,000 comments. Staged. Look at this.
Hey, William, we not MAGA morons. We know Trump is talking him saying bullshit. Trump loved the Second Amendment. Trust me.
You won the Oscar. All right. Yeah, obvious psyop ever. You can literally see her look up and then look down. Fake AF. Attempted assassination weapon. Thank goodness he wasn't able to douse her with remaining 2 teaspoons of liquid. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Marked safe today from staging an attack on myself so I can pretend to be tough and try and distract
Well, he bought the gun because the first time.
There you go.
Alice had the first time altercation with the ICE agents. He got his ribs broken. He had no gun. Come back again with the ICE agent with a gun, and he dies. That's crazy. Neon Monkey, how you feel?
I don't know.
Thanks for joining in.
Because you set it up. You know what it was. It was nothing.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll always tell you the truth. Unlike Ilhan Omar. This is good. Really Bollywood level acting.
Things have changed quite a bit here on the ground outside this ICE facility in Minneapolis, especially because there's now Hennepin County Sheriff's vehicles that are blocking the road where we saw those clashes between officers and protesters.
So after 2 months, we're finally seeing a local law enforcement blitz in Minnesota. But the question is, why is this happening now? After all, Governor Walz and Representative Omar have been riling up their mobs for weeks, telling them the country is under attack from federal agents who are removing the dangerous fugitives these rioters think help their city somehow, revealing that these sanctuary leaders are now trapped and have lost control of their rebellion.
What's happening right now is that the organizers of this rally who are in the middle of that scrum right there, they're being forced out of the City Hall area, drowned out by hundreds of people who are anti this ICE deployment in the city. The message to these organizers, get out.
There are hundreds of people here with their signs, report suspicious captivity. Remember, this is all coming as the DHS says that this is the largest immigration crackdown in the history of America.
He's going to do what he's going to do regardless. And like, there was a part of me that wasn't going to come out today because I was going to listen to our governor. But the governor and Mayor Jacob Fry have proven that like they're not for the people. And like, I can't just sit at home.
They're not in reality. They're in some total fantasy universe. They don't understand that the majority of their fellow Americans, voted to implement the policies that ICE is implementing. It's undemocratic to halt the implementation of those policies, which is what is happening.
But the professional politicians, Omar, Walz, they're making this sound like the Civil War. They're making it sound like Germany.
So this is who these rioters are out there protecting. People like this dangerous individual who wasn't making Minnesota safer or stronger. Absolutely not. But nobody's talking about how things were not supposed to turn out this way in Minnesota at all, because by now the rioters and their politicians who were cheering them on, they were supposed to have been victorious.
Mark, it was not falling apart. It's Minnesota falling apart.
In Chicago
as
or
one
in LA,
state.
the open borders crowd thought they could finally prove ICE and the FBI had an agenda in Minnesota, framing their entire operations here as an attack on the innocent, but that didn't work because the immigration and fraud
Critical, you funny,
here,
30 years
well,
of Mark. Damn.
Worse.
30 years sober.
Americans who are watching this stuff don't like learning that sanctuary politicians are teaming up with criminals of all kinds to defraud our country every way imaginable. Yes, that's right, because with every box of evidence removed from a fake daycare center, the rest of the country grows more and more outraged as journalists discover even more fraud, like bogus transportation companies who get paid to deliver the non-existent children and patients to various daycares and hospitals, which are, as expected, empty as a church on Saturday. Speaking of which, the local insurrection mobs have decided to start going after regular people when they're on the streets or in church, exposing what this movement is really all about. Which brings us to the real reason we're now seeing local law enforcement take an active role in maintaining law and order here. The leaders of this sanctuary are now under the impression, rightfully so, that their foot soldiers are way out of control and need to be reeled in quick. And they're trying to rein them in, but it's just not working because these same leaders have been stoking the righteous anger of the brainwashed who support every country on the planet
Like and
except
subscribe,
the one they
everybody.
live in, which is America.
Happy
and
hump
these
day.
leaders have demonized every
Let's get to
law
1,000.
enforcement officer in the state, revealing that the true reason these mobs are so out of control boils down to the same old formula: hatred of our country, hatred of our values, and hatred of those who wear a badge and are paid to maintain and protect those values. And now they've got some frightening new tactics that show you what a lawless place this has become.
What? We do custom apps for a whole bunch of companies around Minnesota and the country.
Why are you
Because you're filming us. Do I look like an ice agent?
Yeah, you look like a nice agent.
I'm just trying to enjoy my lunch.
So in this video, you have software engineers who were eating lunch at a restaurant. And for some reason, the owner of that restaurant allegedly responded to some ICE tracking app that these radical groups have. And they came to the restaurant and after the people eating there, accusing them of being part of some federal government operation, which is ridiculous without any evidence. But if you think a bunch of radicals screaming at people trying to have lunch is bad, the members of these mobs cannot keep quiet about their hatred of our country and of law enforcement, even when they're at work. Watch this.
His move should have been to go like this if he was really afraid. Your job as a police officer is to de-escalate.
Split second.
No, no.
Yes.
No. Because watch the video, he was not in
Just because
danger.
you're yelling doesn't mean you're winning arguments. Just because you're yelling doesn't mean you're winning.
So here we have a sanctuary teacher yelling at her students about law enforcement tactics as if she's some sort of expert in police and what they're supposed to do and what it's like to be a police officer and put your life on the line for the country. What does this even have to do with school? These kids aren't learning anything except for the fact that their teacher doesn't think immigration enforcement has a real purpose.
People, vicious, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. I say, why don't you talk about that more? Because people don't know. Do you want to live with these people?
That's who they're finding. That's why ICE is there. ICE is not in Minnesota to do any of the things that the radicals believe that they're there to do. They're not there to talk to American citizens. You know, if you find yourself in the back of an ICE police car and you're not in the country illegally, you had to do something special to get there. You had to combat them. You had to go after them. You had to insert yourself in a targeted immigration enforcement operation that had absolutely nothing to do with you to wind up on their radar. This is happening because the radicals running this place stirred up the hordes who are now attacking churches, attacking people on the streets, and causing all kinds of mayhem just to send some sort of anti-ICE message, which is a problem because the socialists of America wonder how they're going to take back the country during the 2026 midterm elections, which is what they really want to do. And now they're trying to tell the mobs, they're saying, hey guys, chill out. Knock it off for a little bit. You know, we've got to appear normal. We've got to appear like we too like law and order, but it's not working.
It's not working.
Their state officials actually aren't doing enough.
Oh, not enough to stoke tensions.
He's gonna do what he's gonna do regardless. And like, there was a part of me that wasn't gonna come home today because I was gonna listen to our governor. But the governor and Mayor Jacob Fry have proven that like they're not for the people. And like, I can't just sit at home.
This is an incredible statement, and I totally believe her because this entire time she's been told by her governor and her mayor that, you know what? You're saving America by taking to the streets. You're saving America by following federal.
And the government ain't even out there. These actors, they ain't even out there.
Agents around with your cell phone and impeding their ability to arrest people. You're saving America by warning illegal immigrants who are in America without permission that they may soon get arrested and that it is time to flee the area where you've spotted ICE. That's what these people have been told. And now to have the mayor and the governor send local police out there, I mean, this is a disaster, as we saw just a few weeks ago when the mobs were ransacking downtown Minneapolis. Their police showed up. They tried to do something about this, and you know what? They were chased out. The mob doesn't want to hear from their own sanctuary police that it's time to chill out because they pay taxes and they think these sanctuary police are there to defend them and should be throwing themselves at the federal government. That's what these people really believe. And now to hear their governor say, hey, guys, we should chill out a little bit. Don't take the bait. Don't give Trump what he needs to send in the troops to do the Insurrection Act. I mean, they feel betrayed.
Like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.
The mob will rule you, not the other way around.
Served on the China Commission in Congress. Ironically enough.
Thank you, guys. We 2 hours in. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for staying with me. Like and subscribe.
His co-chair with
Look at Tim Walz hiding in the governor's mansion.
Political prisoners. And we would ask them,
with a megaphone,
when we speak up and call out your government, is it bad? And they said, well, in the short run it's bad because it but if you don't speak up, they will us and forget about us. And the idea is right now is we have to be speaking up.
Wow.
We have to
So he's still rallying the
doing
mobs.
everything, and our neighbors are doing everything. And I can't stress enough on this. We're winning it because we're doing it with Minnesota grit, Minnesota humor, Minnesota decency.
So as Tim Walz hides behind a fence to protect himself from his own mob so they don't get too close, he's still fueling the fire in some way. Half of what he says is chill out so that the federal government doesn't show up. But then he realizes we've got people like that woman on the street that we heard from earlier that want him to come out and do enough in her mind. Now, this is totally on Governor Walz. He's the one with the megaphone. He's the one comparing the United States of America to communist China. And when people hear this, they don't also hear the governor's other statements where he says to chill out. And he knows this. These sanctuary leaders all know this. It is their goal to fire people up and keep them on the streets long enough to potentially evade the federal investigations that are coming without the president invoking the Insurrection Act.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want now?
Tensions now mounting in the city after 10 days of protests with more demonstrations overnight.
Ice on the street!
And despite frigid conditions on Saturday, hundreds of anti-ICE protesters surrounding City Hall, greatly outnumbering a small pro-ICE rally organized by a conservative influencer. The scene quickly spilling out.
This is crazy.
So what's happening right now is that the organizers of this rally who are in the middle of that scrum right there, they're being forced out of the City Hall area, drowned out by hundreds of people who are anti this ICE deployment in the city. The message to these organizers, get out.
Yeah, I mean, look at these people. These people, they are radical. These rioters, they really do not like law enforcement at all. They're militant. They're angry. And if you're a sanctuary leader and you see this going on, I mean, this looks like the place has fallen to mob rule. That's exactly what we're seeing on the streets here. And you've got to be really careful because the last thing these politicians want is for Trump and the troops to come in here and take over completely. Because if the Insurrection Act happens, you know what that means? That means Governor Walz, his authority is suspended. That means he will no longer have the authority to work behind the scenes, to thwart law enforcement, to thwart investigations, to cover things up. And his local police won't be out there to do enough policing to make sure that, nothing really crazy happens, but not enough policing to stop the radicals from getting in the faces of federal agents, following them around, or creating a public safety nightmare in Minnesota. So they really want to make sure that they get as close to the line as they can without stepping over it, because if they do, there's really no going back.
The Minnesota National Guard now staged and standing by, but not yet deployed to city streets.
This is terrible.
Trump, who had threatened to use the Insurrection Act to send in federal troops, now walking that back.
If I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it, but if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
A federal judge in Minnesota also temporarily barred.
So before we get to what judges are recently doing, the president, he's got a lot of authority here. People want to see him use it. People want to see the Marines go in here. I think that if that doesn't happen, the American people are going to wonder if the mobs are still in charge. Because remember, everything that's happening here is something that a majority of Americans voted for. A majority of Americans voted for a secure border. A majority of Americans voted in the last presidential election to have law and order make a comeback in this country. And here we're watching on the TV our law enforcement officers who put on a badge and get up every day and deliberately put themselves in harm's way, get attacked. We're watching that. We're sick of it. People want to see something done about this. But wait till you hear what the judges are up to.
A federal judge in Minnesota also temporarily barring ICE officers from arresting or detaining peaceful protesters, quote, in retaliation for their protected conduct.
Okay, that's never happened. That's the other thing that you have to realize here is that peaceful protesters have never been arrested by ICE for being peaceful. Now, if you're going to get in the face of federal agents with your cell phone, you're going to put your hands on them, you are no longer a peaceful protester. You may not have attacked them with a foreign object, but you're no longer peaceful. You're hostile. You're touching a federal officer. You're impeding arrest. You're breaking the law. And that's how people wind themselves up in the back of an ICE vehicle. They are deliberately uncooperative. They are deliberately agitating with the federal government. They are not dispersing. They are instigating the conflict so that it can then get filmed and so that some judge can say, oh, yeah, ICE is totally out of control. And you know what? When the radicals hear this, that a judge just banned ICE from doing something, even though ICE is not engaging in that activity, this is a totally political ruling, because this ruling tells the mobs and all of the rioters out there that, hey, look, The judges are on your side. You guys are on the side of righteousness. It's the president who's illegal. You see this foments in the minds of these people and just continually pushes them over the edge, which is actually bad news if you're Governor Walz and you're the one trying to raid these people in from behind your fence while keeping them out there. You see, he's lost control of the situation.
The order also prohibits federal agents.
You want the Epstein files? Go ahead and Google it, Kenny.
Federal officials
Hey, right there for you. Just Google it.
Protests aren't peaceful,
right?
But the scrutiny spreading to
It
Minnesota
won't hurt.
politicians too. Multiple officials telling ABC News that Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are now also under federal investigation for allegedly obstructing law enforcement activities in the state. Fry responding on social media, calling it an obvious attempt to intimidate me for standing up for Minneapolis against the chaos and danger this administration has brought to our streets.
Okay, so he's admitting basically that he's taken actions to stand up for Minneapolis against the federal government, and he's being investigated for thwarting the ability of the federal government to enforce federal law. This is a big problem for these guys. If they are prosecuted, and if evidence comes out to support these claims, which to many people it already has, there's statements fueling this insurrection type related activity. There are people who maintain that these guys have already done that just by what they're saying. And you know what's so crazy about this? If Trump were to say anything and somebody put their finger on another individual and it could be tied back to what Trump said, that person, you would have a political party in this country that try to throw that person in jail forever. But here, we've got leaders who are saying that the president is literally the worst thing to happen to this country, even though a majority of people voted for him, riling people up and creating all of this mayhem.
Targeting American citizens. And the latest example that they're using is this man in Minneapolis, taken out of his home, wearing only boxers, looks like a towel wrapped around his shoulder. I think he is a Hmong immigrant to the United States, but who is in fact an American citizen. What do you say to the facts of this case, Tom Homan?
Yeah, let's get the real story.
Well, let's look at the facts.
No problem, man.
ICE was looking for 2 illegal aliens.
Yeah, my channel don't block nobody, but if you're a bot, I gotta get rid of it. Ain't no problem. I'm right here with you guys watching. I'm not just in the background somewhere else running around the house. I'm right here with you guys.
With criminal convictions. So both these people shouldn't be walking the streets of this nation. So ICE did a target enforcement operation, pulled over a vehicle that was licensed to one of these. The driver of the car was identified as not being one of them. But his statement to the officer was, the guy you're looking for is at the house right now. So I left it. I just left the house.
Yes, they do.
So
Yes, they
ICE
do.
went to the house where these 2 people reportedly living.
Fascinating. So this story of this guy getting arrested who is a U.S. citizen, this was like red meat for the anti-ICE crowd. They thought they finally had the federal government caught red-handed detaining Americans for absolutely no reason. But now we're learning that there actually was a valid reason. A whole trail of evidence of criminal activity led federal agents to this place. And as you're about to see, like I've been saying this entire time, if you want ICE to detain you as an American citizen, you got to do something really different.
So if ICE, just snatched up citizens and all that, there's like hundreds and hundreds of protesters out there. They could have snatched those protesters up and take them straight to jail right there. So stop falling for that bullshit that's narrative. Stop watching The View, CNN. They straight lying to you. They giving you the whole perspective. They just want one narrative. Chaos, 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 chaos. And that's sad. We gotta do better as people. Period. American, non-American, we gotta do better as people. Like and subscribe, everybody.
And they located this individual. This individual who matched the description, but they couldn't verify his identity because he was uncooperative. He failed to do a quick fingerprint check. He failed to do facial recognition. So ICE detained him till they found out who he was.
That's what this is all about. It's almost like the person in this house had knowledge that the press was going to be there filming this ICE activity at the house. It's almost like someone told him, hey, get arrested and then say you're a U.S. citizen. Now, look, we don't know if that happened, but all this person had to do was walk over to their dresser, to their nightstand, and get their ID and prove their identity. If they didn't have their ID, they could have done a fingerprint. They could have done facial recognition. The officers gave this person 3 different ways to verify their identity in that apartment. They didn't want to take him out, but he forced it to happen. And that's how we wind up at this story. Again, you got to do something special if you want to get detained by ICE, and this is special.
No, Tom, I want to go straight to this social media post from someone named Kathy Young, who said that ICE is actually, while the stats don't tell the whole story, there are videos of ICE agents aggressively questioning people based on a foreign accent, demanding ID proof of citizenship, sometimes using physical force, twisting of arms when people refuse. This is sort of the story of ICE doing something horrific.
Look, every single time you see some 15-second video of an officer making an arrest of somebody who is in civilian clothes, every single time you see a video like that, you are always missing the surrounding context. And you've got people out there who already believe, because of what their leaders have told them, that President Trump is the worst thing to ever happen to America. You've already got people who believe that they are standing up for freedom and for righteousness by going out there and attacking the federal government and getting in the faces of federal agents. So if that's your belief system, and you see a 15-second clip of someone getting removed from their vehicle forcefully who is being uncooperative, what are you going to believe? You're going to make the leap of logic between your fraudulent belief system and the fact that this person was unjustly arrested. You're going to automatically believe that. The surrounding context does not matter to you. That's how people come up with this mindset. That's why we have this anti-ICE fervor festering in these sanctuaries, which is leading to mob rule.
Accent. Is that reasonable suspicion? He's targeting, in the ICE agent's own words, his accent. So is that ICE targeting an American citizen based upon their accent? Is that reasonable suspicion?
There was a reason. There's always a reason.
No, and we don't know if that's just one of many factors. Reasonable suspicion is based on a number of factors, right? The totality of the circumstances. It just can't be an accent. It just can't get an appearance. But what people don't realize, before that question occurred, what did the officer observe?
Right.
Where were they? What did he see before that?
Right.
How long was he surveilling that person? What did the license plate come back to a known criminal investigation?
Right.
So there's a lot of things that lead, as you know, well, to reasonable suspicion. So we don't know what was in the officer's mind and what the totality of circumstances.
We're missing the context. Everyone's missing the context. You see a 15-second video on the internet, your prior belief system will determine what you think about that interaction. And if your prior belief system has already deemed the officers that you see in the video as illegitimate thugs who wear a mask, not to protect their identity and their family from the leftist mobs who want to figure out where they live and try to shut them down at home, but rather to hide from the American public.
I guess if ICE got COVID, they can wear their mask. Get COVID, ICE, you can wear your mask if you got COVID. And your boosters.
Like, you're going to see that. You're going to say, I knew it.
The boosters.
I knew it. This administration's out of control. I knew it. We need to defund ICE. And you're going to take to the streets no matter what the elected officials over you say. These governors, they're trying to rein these mobs in. They're trying to control them and get them to suit their purposes. But I think they've totally lost control of the situation. We heard that woman earlier say the governor's not doing enough. They feel betrayed by their own leaders. They feel betrayed by their own police. That's why they are so angry pretty much all of the time. What do you think about this? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Being urged to come by Christianity. He's had to do and they ginned up the thugs on the street or the common people, getting them to think that they're actually in some kind of it's a purposeful revolution in order to bring about good things. And so they continue to do that, but I just call them street thugs, and they're just the low IQ voters is what they are. And that's exactly what's going on here. The people at the top, the Democratic
ICE baby,
are actually ginning up the base who are not able to think themselves out of a wet paper sack, apparently, and see what is actually happening. So Tim Walz, Jacob Fry, or Jasmine Cricket, and all those people, they
subscribe, everybody.
gin up this dissatisfaction on the bottom, and they might even every once in a while make an appearance on the street. But the people on the bottom, they're the ones who, okay, so now they're getting themselves in the way and not able to think correctly that they're doing wrong by impeding law enforcement.
Yeah.
I would never do that. And they said, well, we're in Minnesota, we're afraid to go out of the house. I said, no, you're not. Not if you're a law-abiding citizen.
That's right.
You're not afraid to go out of the house. Unless, of course, you're afraid of the thugs and the street minions who actually simply just like puppets on a string by the leaders in the party. So that's what's happening. So you know what? This Alex Preddy and Renee Good, they themselves, they should have known better, but we have educated or miseducated ourselves into a place where we can't think correctly about the issues of life anymore. And right is wrong, and wrong has become right, good has become evil, evil has become good, as Jeremiah said, and that's what's happening. So they just get out there and they don't know what they're doing. They don't have any other purpose in life. They're anti-God, of course, apparently. They don't have any respect for authority. So they go out there and they get themselves in the way, and that's what happens.
Amazing. Another thing I noticed, and I wanted to know from you, is this is the first time in history has something like this happened. I noticed that in a lot of these anti-American movements, they're headed up by females, and females are dancing and carrying on, and I mean, it's awful. And then these males are following these females. Has it ever happened at any other time in history when women led these radical, violent action and men followed it? Is this something new?
Well, I hadn't even thought about that, actually, Jesse. I mean, that is, at least in my view, that is new on the American scene, that we have had this women's liberation so much pushed on us that the women feel like, okay, they're just as powerful as the men, and they get out there and of course, and they try to. I saw several videos. You know, women are fighting these ICE. I thought if an ICE agent would just one time punch one woman in the face, she would be down and they would have to take her to the hospital. But they think, get in there, they're gonna fight, and they're beating themselves against his breast. You know, it's like, oh, good grief. You know, it's just, it's ridiculous that we have had this in our society.
And do you know if Stalin or any other way back yonder movement, did they use women, allow women to be involved like this?
You know, I don't recall that being the case. Okay. All the ones with which I'm familiar are men.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's the case, except in America, where we have become riddled with misinformation and liberal progressivism and political correctness, and so we just can't. You know, we've got to be able to let the women lead. So I just like, you know,
why is it so easy for men to follow women when it's not a normal state of being? And in the good old days, the men would never have put up with something like this. But the women are all over everything now.
Good one, Michael. Good one.
Why is it that it's so easy for men?
Oh no, you can dodge a car, you can dodge a ball. I just watched that movie the other day, Critical. LaFleur. I just watched that movie the other day, Dodgeball. Classic.
I guess it comes to us now in the air that we breathe. I mean, that's the American culture that, you know, the men are taking a back seat to everything, and they just follow along, and they like love puppy dogs a lot of times, and it's pretty sad.
That's amazing. I was thinking, and I want to ask you about this Mandami man person. I noticed that in New York.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you. My name is Deontay. Thank you, guys.
One of the reasons Mandami was elected, a whole lot of educated white women.
Modern class, you know it.
And they supported him. They campaigned for him. They voted for him. Otherwise, Mandami may not be in there. Would not have won had not been for those liberal women.
Was it a mistake to allow women to ever vote?
Well, our founding fathers said this, and this is one of those mistaught areas of the Constitution and our founding of our country.
I live in Illinois, Michael.
That our founding fathers were not simply about
From Chicago, now I live in Rockford.
But they recognized at that point in society,
Well, north of it actually. So I'm in a good part.
Into the biblical worldview, is the head of the household. And therefore, there would be one vote per household, because it was inconceivable that there would be a man, the head of his household, and the woman or the wife would be so radically disagreeing with him on what to do and how to manage society. So the founders recognized that to be the case. So they said one vote for family. And that would, of course, the head of the family was the man. But that was a biblical and is a biblical worldview. As it has come about, the women's liberation movement has, of course, cast on
then, Michael,
what
Chicago,
they call biblical restraints and want the women to be the leaders in the household, or at least have their own households. And consequently, with that comes along.
It was on Cicero or something like that he was working on, or Western, them areas.
As you'll note, as
Michael?
we mentioned a moment ago, the progressive era. The progressive era was about revoking the biblical worldview, the Christian worldview. And that is that we have the man, the father, the mother, husband, wife, and children. And above them all is God. That's the biblical model of the family. And that's what we had until the progressive era, which very decidedly and very pointedly wanted to cast off any kind of biblical role that we
Like
have
and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you.
in America really reaches back into the period of 1900, or at least the roots of it do.
It looked to me that in America, the women are being used, the females are
Dirty Jersey. Dirty Jersey. That's a good joke. That's a good one.
and all that. And so it looked like they've educated these women, and they're being used to really bring in socialism, because they always, psychologically and emotionally, they're lost. They're out of control. And they all...
Thank you, guys. 2 hours and 30 minutes in. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
always want to do the mama thing. They want you to take care of their children in daycare center while they go to work and all kind of mess. Are women being used for socialism?
Well, I think so. So not only that, but also for the dissolution of the American family.
Yeah.
So if we think about, and also the destruction of the church, let me mention that as well, because the Bible has not only 1 Corinthians 11 and Ephesians 5, that the husband is the head of the wife. And so we have God, the husband, God, Christ, the husband, the wife,
right,
and then the children. And that's what we have in Ephesians 6, Ephesians 5, as well as 1 Corinthians 11. But not only so, the church, as it is structured, the leadership of the church is every local congregation has a plurality of elders. And these are men that are to be married men. 1 Timothy chapter 3 and Titus chapter 1. What has happened, and not only so, but in the public assembly, the women are to keep silent, and they're not to be taking positions as teachers in the churches, 1 Timothy chapter 2 and 1 Corinthians chapter 14. What has happened? We're seeing in America, the churches are reflecting what society wants, and that is that women now become supposed pastors and leaders in churches. And so that this is the destruction not only of a God-centered worldview, but it's a destruction of society, destruction of the family, destruction of the church. And that is also reflected in society as we're seeing it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Hey, come here for a minute, because I can't read all this stuff you want me to do. Hey, is white, and he writes.
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, good. Yay.
You know how white people are. They ask you, you ask them for a little information, because they're white, they give you a whole book.
you like my answers there. That's right.
Oh wow.
So hey, tell Bill or ask him about the stuff you write to me about Orwell and all that.
All right. Well, I thought of this George Orwell quote that I've seen on X. And
you remember Hake, right, Bill?
Hey, Bill.
I do remember James Hake. How are you doing, James? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. The quote from George Orwell's book, 1984, I believe. It was always the women, and above all the young ones, who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of slogans, the amateur spies and nosers out of unorthodoxy. George Orwell.
Wow, that is a powerful quote. You know, George Orwell knew where we were going as a society and actually called it, didn't he?
Yeah, that is powerful.
Yeah, he really had his finger on the pulse of what was going on, right? So the basic thinking here of the founding generation, as well as the biblical orientation, is that women frequently or too frequently operate on the emotional plane more than the man, and because of that, they're unable frequently, not always, as you put it, not always, but frequently.
Not all, but most.
That's right. That's right, because the emotions take them in it drives their thinking instead of the opposite, and that's the problem with the women in leadership. And I suppose that's why that we have God said the husband, and He tells us in 1 Timothy chapter 2 why the man is to be the teacher and the leader in the church as well as in the home. And He tells us that because of two reasons. First of all, Adam was first formed, then Eve. And number two, Adam was not beguiled, but the woman being beguiled has fallen into transgression. He fell because of the weakness for the woman. Yeah. She fell because she was deceived. Yeah. And that gives us a good cross section of what's going on right now in our society.
Well, God tried to tell the man, because you listen to that woman.
No problem, Mike. I'm on that.
And I know.
Yeah, me and my wife are gonna start fasting more too. Fasting more. Yeah. And reading the Bible more. Fasting and praying. Yep.
Notice now that every time men listen to women, they suffer. But they won't. They crazy or something.
Right. Well, so you know what, and I wanted to kind of back up for a moment and just talk about a couple of things real quickly regarding what's going on, and that is a lot of this traces back, and people say, well, okay, you've talked about the Woodrow